Ning arrived at the academy with a massive bag full of clothes and other necessary items. He found his way to the dorm room that was on either side of the academy where he was going to have to stay for a long time. The academy's main building was nearly 800 meters wide, and he had to go around to even see the dorms. Wow, and it actually extends for so much longer too, Ning thought when he saw the sides of the academy that went on for another 800 meters or so. What's inside of it, I wonder, he thought. There's so much essence there that it can't be something natural at all. On the right side of the academy was the male dorm room, and on the left side of it was the female dorm room. Ning walked on paved stone roads that were conveniently made for the students to walk on. Letting them walk on the barren land itself wouldn't have been many problems either, but it seemed the academy at least wanted to look good on that front. Why the hell did they not just plant a bunch of trees at least? It honestly can't be that hard. There are trees growing all around in the city, he thought. He could sense the essence too, and they would definitely help grow some plants here. He arrived at the dorm and showed his token to the person in charge. Second floor, room 5. Here's a student handbook. Don't leave without reading it all. Your classes will begin next week, the person said. Ning looked at the person who handed him the items. So strong, he thought. This man is definitely higher than just essence manifestation for sure. He might even be in the essence soul realm. Thank you. He took the book and key and went over to room 5 on the second floor. He tried to use the key to unlock the door but found out that the door was already unlocked. Someone's here, he thought, and sensed the essence inside of the room. Someone was definitely there. He slowly opened the door and looked at the room he would have to spend quite a bit of time in the future. The dorm room Ning was to stay in was quite small. It was about 4 by 4 meters in size, with only 2 beds and 2 closets. Ning couldn't find anything else in there at all, not even a chair. Best academy, my ass. Bastards can't even afford chairs for their students, he thought as he walked in. The bed to the right was occupied, and the young man who was sleeping in it quickly got up when he noticed someone walking in. Who are you? The young man asked, half asleep. Oh, hi, I'm Ning, your roommate. Ning quickly introduced himself. The young man tried to open his eyes the best he could to look at Ning. The young man himself was quite good looking with long curly hair that covered his ears. I'm Caleb Hass, the young man said, and you are weak. Don't disturb me. He slumped back in his bed and fell asleep. Ning stood there, slightly surprised at what had just happened. Weak. He thought to himself. How am I weak when I have already entered the essence sense realm 2 days ago? He stared at the man for a few seconds, but the young man had already fallen asleep from what he could see. Ning sighed in the end and looked away. Fine, Caleb Hass. I won't bother you again, he thought to himself and started setting up his bed. He put the bag down and was dusting off his bedsheets when he stopped. Caleb Hass? He thought for a moment. Hass, I know that surname, don't I? He thought for a moment and remembered. Wait. They're the nobles that rule the Green Dove region of the Blackhawk Dominion, aren't they? He thought for a moment. The longer he thought about it, the more sure he became. The Hass family was in fact the ones that ruled the Green Dove region. Wow, they put me with the nobility, huh? Ning thought. After his curiosity had been fulfilled, he got back to work. He put his clothes into the empty closet and safely stored the 2 crystals he had. He was debating on whether he should leave the crystal in the closet or not. He did have his own interdimensional storage after all. Still, in the end, he decided to leave it be. Since he was trying to experience new stuff, even if it was a bad experience, he would welcome it. However, that did not mean that he was going to leave it out in the open. Ning took his sword off its sheath and placed it on top of the clothes where the crystal was. Now, anyone that wanted those crystals would have to first pull away his sword. With how impossible of a task that was, Ning felt fairly confident that his crystals wouldn't be stolen so quickly. Still, I should use it as quickly as possible, he thought. Once he had set up everything, he sat on his bed and sighed deeply. He looked around in the room and lay back on his bed. Then, he took out the student handbook and started reading through it to understand more about the academy. There were quite a few rules in the academy that Ning would have to be careful about. For example, he couldn't use essence outside of classes or the training area. He couldn't leave the dorm at night after 8 p.m. He had to be present in every class unless pardoned beforehand. Ning read through the rest of the rules and moved on to the rest of the information. The book mentioned various facilities and buildings around the academy that Ning would be allowed in so long as he was a student. This included something that Ning had been looking forward to learning in the future. There is it, the skill library, he thought. I wonder what sort of skills I will get from there in the future. The Blackhawk Academy has a credit system. Everyone started with 20 credits and gained more by doing activities that were called mission, assigned to one by the academy. The missions were normally something simple as help clear the pond, or help move desks from one classroom to the next, but they could also be quite complex sometimes. Of course, the harder the mission, the more credit one got for completing it. The credits could be used for the extra functions of the academy other than just normal classes. From buying essence resources to being allowed inside a library, everything used credits. So, everyone worked extra hard to gain as much credit as they could. On the other hand, not attending a single class, unless one had previous clearance, made one lose credit for it. If they missed a whole day, they could easily lose anywhere from 5 to 8 credits depending on the number of subjects they had to go through. If your credit went down to 0 at any point and you lost even a single credit afterward, you were immediately expelled from the academy. That was all written in the handbook that Ning was given. Ning read the handbook one more time after he got ready for his first day of class. Did you not bother learning about the academy before you came? Why are you reading that stupid book so much? His roommate, Caleb, spoke while he got ready. I thought I was too weak for you to interact with, Ning said. Do you want me to answer your question? On second thought, no, forget I even asked, the young man said as he put on his uniform. Ning ignored him and simply waited for the time when the bell rang. After the first ring, he would have 5 minutes to get to his class. He had already been given a schedule as well as all the resources that would be necessary during his time in the academy, so he had to carry those around in a bag as well. Ning heard the first ring of the bell a few minutes later and left the room. He and Caleb walked out of the door at the same time, but Caleb quickly ran away, leaving Ning to lock the door behind him. Ning did so as soon as he could and walked to the academy. His first class was in classroom 14 on the 3rd floor on the right wing of the academy. It was the wing closest to his dorm, which was why he had waited until the bell rang to leave. He walked up the stairs and saw the inside of the academy finally. As he had expected, the inside of the academy was barren as well. However, it wasn't simply left barren like the outside, and was instead turned into a training area with multiple platforms to fight in as well as a large pond at the center which also had a platform on top of it for students to train or fight in. He followed the platforms and saw that there was nothing stopping the students from leaving the area as aside from the 3 wings of the academy, the backside of the academy was completely empty, allowing anyone to go to the mountains as they wished. As it seemed, as long as the students didn't leave the academy ground itself, or return to the dorm by 8 p.m., they would be fine. The number of students that walked into their classroom was massive, but Ning still managed to make it to his classroom with enough time. To his surprise, the classroom only held 35 or so students, despite clearly accepting over 100. Are we separated into groups? He wondered. He looked around at his classmates and realized almost all of them looked either of the same age as him or younger. He wondered what their actual age was. Quite a few girls too, he thought. Good to see no discrimination of any sort. The teacher arrived a minute later when the next bell finally rang and the class started. The teacher introduced himself and introduced the class as well. The first class was language studies, which Ning had prepared for, but still ended up hating it just as much. He struggled to follow the teacher through the entire class and was only rejuvenated when the bell rang once again. The second class for him took place in another room which he had to go to. This time, it was a maths class. This was much more enjoyable to Ning, merely based on the fact that he didn't have to use much brainpower for this part. He was a little good with numbers too, simply because he had spent hundreds and thousands of years. On top of that, the math being taught was nowhere near as complex as it could be. He had taught more complex math to his own daughter while she was growing up. The class ended once again, and Ning moved on to another class. One after another, from 10 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m., he went through 6 different classes, each of which was around 40 minutes long. Science, essence theory, geography, and history were the next 4 subjects that Ning had to sit through before he was finally allowed to go have his lunch. From 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. was the free time for them to rest before the intensive classes began. From 4 p.m. onward, the practical lessons began. There were 2 different classes for this one, each one of which took place on one of the many platforms and went on for an hour each. The first one was essence training. The class taught the students how to improve their essence rank, how to use their essence, how to minimize their essence usage, and improve efficiency. The second one was battle training. This class taught the students how to fight practically and involved a lot of direct fights in order to train. These last 2 were the classes that Ning loved the best. The essence training class was quite simple. The students were made to bring their own conduits if possible. If they could not, they would have to buy a simple conduit from the academy for a few credits. Ning brought his wind sheath as he didn't feel comfortable bringing the sword to this class. Not only did he have to keep the sword itself a secret, but he also had to keep it in his closet to stop anyone from going through it. Everyone, gather in a line and try to knock the metal plate in front of you using your essence, the teacher told them. The class full of students looked at the several metal plates that were kept upright. They all used their essence and one by one knocked the several plates. Ning knocked his own plate with relative ease since he had a room full of air to work with when using his wind sheath. Any other tasks may cause a problem, but that simple task was of no trouble to him. Now go and put it back up, the teacher told them. Everyone quickly went over to their plate and put it upright before returning. The teacher walked in between them and looked at them all with his lazy eyes. "Should I congratulate you for doing something so simple?" the teacher asked. The students looked at each other and quickly shook their heads. "Good. That's not worthy of any congratulations. A monkey could do what you do if it can use essence," the teacher said. "What is worthy of congratulations is if you can do the same thing you did but with 1/10 the amount of essence. Or maybe even just the 20th. Do you think you can do that?" The students looked puzzled. Using such little essence to knock the metal was doable in their mind. A few of them nodded. "I see," the teacher said. "Why don't you try it then?" All the students prepared their conduits again and targeted the metal plate. Only this time, they made sure to use just 1/10 of what they had used previously. The first student, who was using a fire conduit, attacked his metal plate in the distance. A very tiny ball of fire flew out of the shield in his hand and crossed the area to go for his metal plate. However, not even halfway through, the fire faltered in the wind, nearly going out. At the same time, the wind caused the tiny fire to move out of the direction it was moving in the first place, completely destroying any semblance of accuracy in the young man's attack. "What?" the young man shouted in surprise. He had fully expected his fireball to not be strong enough to make the metal plate drop, but losing the trajectory of the attack had not even been a concern in his mind. The other few tried it out as well, and only 2 of the 35 people managed to drop their metal plate at all, and that 2 was only because one of them used too much essence. The other person that did the task perfectly was a young girl with bright red hair and a cold attitude that went by the name Yorsha Eulyris. As a daughter from the Red Raven family, no one dared say what she had done was a fluke at all. Ning frowned at his own attack as he had too little wind to use when he shrunk the essence required by 10 times. He had already been using a rather low amount of essence due to how hard to gather his own essence was, so the task was quite hard for him. "Everyone, keep trying until you make it," the teacher said. "If you do end up making it, try with less essence again. Do it until you have no more essence." The students frowned, but no one dared say no. Everyone tried their best, and by the time the period was over, a lot of them had managed to drop the metal plate a second time too. After essence training was the weapons training. Ning arrived on the platform where he was to train and was surprised to see that his roommate Caleb was also in the same class. By now, they were in 3 of the same classes throughout the day. "Come on. Gather around and choose whatever you like," the weapons teacher said as he looked at the 30-some different students that were here for the weapons training. The students gathered around the pile of wooden weapons and started choosing one after another to practice with. "Don't bother choosing a weapon just because you happen to have that essence weapon. Choose one that you actually like," the teacher told the students. The students stuck to basic weapons for the most part. Sword, spear, axe, hammer, and bow were the ones that were picked the most. Ning wanted to pick a spear, but with how irreplaceable his sword seemed, it was better for him to choose a sword. Besides, there wasn't really any point in choosing a spear as he was very good with that. "Did everyone get a weapon of their own?" the teacher asked as he looked around. Good, since you all have something, your task for the day is very simple. The teacher pulled a sword from his hip and revealed that it was an icy white sword. He used his essence, and immediately various ice blocks appeared around the platform. When Ning quickly counted, he realized that there were exactly the same amount of ice blocks as there were students. Hit the ice until it is destroyed completely, the teacher said. Hit too weak and the ice won't break. Hit too hard and the weapon will break. You will need to find a good compromise between your strength and your weapon's durability. Once you destroy the ice blocks, you should have a general grasp of how you can keep your sword lasting for a long time and not breaking very easily, the teacher said. Begin. 3 days later, Ning had his first day without any classes. There would be another one after 2 more days too, giving him 5 days of total study days in a single week. Just because he had no class, however, didn't mean that no one had classes at all. A free day meant Ning did not have to study at all. However, he still had to remain in the academy ground, so he needed to do what he could do to pass some time. There were 2 things every single student did during these days when they were bored of just sitting in their room. The first was earning credits. They would do the missions that were given to them and earn credits. The second thing they did was spend those credits. There were libraries, restaurants, conduit shops, clothing stores, and even an entertainment hall on the front wing of the academy. Since this was Ning's first week, he decided to earn some credit. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel any good spending the 20 credits he had. He made his way to the missions building and quickly looked around for whatever missions were available. There were papers on a board where one could take a piece to accept the mission. Ning looked around and found quite a few different types of missions. It went from cleaning to picking trash to clearing the fields of any growing plants. There were also other missions such as helping in the academy cafeteria, helping a teacher with something, and other various things. Ning decided to start off with something slow and easy, so he took the job to get rid of plants around the academy. He took a piece of the paper and handed it to one of the many students that were working there. His request quickly went through and he was handed the mission. Get a shovel from the shed and you can start working. For every 20 sizable plants you manage to unroot, you will get 1 credit, the man said. Ning nodded and walked away. He no longer questioned why they were so gung-ho about removing all the trees. During one of his previous essence lessons, a teacher had exchanged the reason behind the bleak and desolate landscape. Apparently, trees, like any other thing in this world, required essence to grow. So, if they let trees and other plants grow here, they would definitely steal the essence from the air, reducing the amount available. Given how many different students and teachers were here that relied on the essence they could get to improve themselves through the rank, any little essence they could save would go a long way for all of them. Ning went to the shed and grabbed one of the shovels there, along with a basket to carry what he unearthed on his back. After all, he would need to show his 20 plants to gain the credits. He walked around the barren land searching for any sort of plants, however, there weren't any there at all. Sigh, do I really have to go up in the mountains? Ning thought as he looked in the distance where various students were either working or training. He sighed one last time and made his way there as the mountains were part of the academy as well. In a well-lit room on the highest floor of the academy, 3 students were sitting around a table with drinks all around the table. Haha, it's been a while, hasn't it? Since we all sat around drinking, a bald man with a thick beard said. It sure has, headmaster, an older woman with short hair said. I can't believe you actually managed to convince us to drink when it's only late afternoon right now, the last man with a burn scar on his right cheek said. What else can I do? The headmaster said as he took a swig from his cup. We can't go around teaching students while hungover, so it's better to drink early and be sober by the time morning comes around. I'm not complaining, the man with the scar said. Anyway, stop talking and drink, the headmaster said. You two suffered quite a lot during this year's student admissions. How many people was it? 5,000? Probably, the woman said. It was so many that I didn't even bother counting. It was exactly 5,492 participants in the tests, the man with the scar said. Over the course of a week, we had to go through nearly 800 different people each day. There were days when I had to work until midnight. All right, let's stop talking about the hardship, the headmaster said. How is this batch of students? Any good seeds? I would say a few, the woman said. The daughter of the Red Raven family is definitely someone we need to keep an eye on. She could turn out to be one of the best students given how trained she already is. There's the son of the White Owl family, the one named 10. He's close to ranking up from the essence manifestation realm, despite only being 16 years old, the man said. Caleb Hass of the Green Dove family shows potential as well. I've taught him for 3 days, and he seems to absorb information like a sponge. Although, his attitude could use a little work, the woman said. The man nodded. I hated dealing with him too in my class, he said. So, these 3 are the ones we should keep our eyes on, huh? The headmaster asked. The 2 nodded. Oh right, there might be another one, the man suddenly said. Oh, who? The headmaster asked. There's one kid named Ning. He's a little old and has only recently ranked up to the essence sense realm, the man said. However, he has something that everyone could only hope for. Oh, what? The headmaster asked curiously. The man got closer and whispered, his essence is barely tainted at all. It's almost as if it is fully pure. Pure essence. The headmaster thought. It's been a while since anyone with that sort of essence direction has come to the academy. Things might turn fun very soon. Ning had made his way halfway up the second mountain to the left where there were fewer people around. He hoped people simply didn't want to come here because it was far away. If the reason for it lacking people was because there was nothing to unroot here, he would have wasted his time. A few minutes later, Ning saw a small plant growing next to a rock and walked over there. He grabbed the plant by the stem and pulled it as hard as he could. Despite the hard soil of the mountain, the plant came out relatively easily. Ning threw the plant onto his basket and moved on. He had collected about 8 plants by now, and he still needed 12 more if he wanted to get a credit. He looked at the sun going down and realized that he had 2 hours of sunlight at best to work with. Damn it, I shouldn't have wasted half a day sleeping, he thought. Although, he had been absorbing one of the crystals the entire night, so he couldn't help it. He walked up the mountain and found another plant. This one was small and couldn't just be ripped out. So, he took his shovel and dug into the soil. With how strong he was, the shovel went into the soil as if he were digging up sand. The entire plant came out of the ground, root and all, and Ning tossed it into the basket on his back. As he walked around, the dirt would come loose and fall through the cracks of the basket, leaving only the plant behind. I found 2 already, he thought. Maybe I can find them all here. He walked around the mountain searching for more and more plants and indeed found quite a few. In just an hour, he found exactly 9 more of them. With the previous 10, he now had 19 plants. The sun was already red and the sky was slowly changing to red as well. Soon, it would turn to purple and he would lose all light. His vision was good, but it was not so good that he could see easily at night unless there was a bright moon in the sky. He walked around for a bit and found the last plant. Finally, he thought and walked up to it. He pulled out his shovel and was about to dig when he heard something. A young man had arrived close to him, making little to no noise at all. Ning was surprised at first, but he quickly grew suspicious. Who are you? And why are you sneaking up on me? He asked. The young man had stopped in his tracks and gave a grin when he heard the question. He had a basket on his back too with quite a few plants on his basket. A lot more than Ning had. I want that plant, the young man said. Leave and find something else. I found it first, Ning said. Go find your own. Come on, the young man said. I'm 1 away from reaching 40. I need that plant. And I'm 1 away from 19. I need it more than you, Ning told the young man. Besides, I found it first, so it is mine. Your name isn't written on that plant and it wasn't in your basket, so you can't say it is yours just yet, the young man said. Oh, then I'll just put it in my basket, Ning said and turned around to dig. Stop. The young man rushed forward with surprising agility to his steps. It was as if the wind itself was helping him move forward. He put his shovel in front of him to stop Ning's own shovel. Ning realized that he was being attacked, so he quickly spun and used his shovel to strike away the incoming shovel. The young man was surprised, but he wasn't caught off guard. He had been trained way too often for something to catch him off guard enough to be a problem. He stopped where he was attacked and brought the shovel around to strike at Ning's own shovel. Ning turned the shovel in his hand and like a spear, shoved the shovel head onto the incoming shovel. He hit the shovel right at the base of the shovel head, knocking it back. At the same time, He stepped forward and swung the shovel toward the young man's neck. The young man was surprised and tried to step back, but Ning moved again, following him. A sudden gust of wind appeared out of nowhere, pushing on Ning with a lot of force. Ning used the shovel to cut through the pierce through the incoming wind and arrived in front of the young man, pointing the shovel head at his neck. "Stop, or I will hit you for real," Ning said. The young man dropped the shovel and looked in surprise. How did you do that?" he asked. "My physical strength is stronger than whatever skill it was that you used," Ning said. He dropped the shovel and glared at the young man. "Now, go find your own plant before the sun sets and stop disturbing me." The young man watched in awe for a moment before realizing that Ning had turned around to leave. "Wait!" the young man shouted. "What now?" Ning asked. "You still want to fight?" "No," the young man said. "What's your name?" Ning looked at the young man weirdly for a moment before speaking. "Ning," he said. "Ning," the young man shouted. "Big brother Ning, my name is Ten Foreman. Would you like to be training buddies with me?" "Training buddies?" Ning asked. "Yes," the young man said. "I've been looking for people to train with me, and you seem like a capable fighter. Would you please train with me?" Ning thought for a moment. "After class?" he asked. "After class," the young man said. "Sure," Ning said, "but I leave if it's not worth my time." "Understood," the young man said. "Please meet me outside of the dorm after the class ends. I will leave you alone for now, bye." A month passed pretty quickly for Ning as he didn't have much to do in the academy. For now, he simply went to his classes, joined 10 for some training, and spent his free time earning some credits. He had spent his credits a few times in the academy restaurant to eat some good food, but aside from that, he hadn't been able to use it much. With what he was taught in the classes, he didn't find the need to immediately go to the library either. Ning's improvement in his essence rank had slowed down a lot as well. With the absence of the fruit and the crystals, he could only rely on the moonlight to aid him in absorbing pure essence, and that was never really that helpful at all. With how slow the twin moon absorption technique was, it would take him forever to reach the next rank, which was the essence manifestation realm. Fortunately, he wouldn't have to continue absorbing the moonlight forever. Ning heard a knock on the door of his dorm room early in the morning one day. "There's someone by the door, get it," he said half asleep. He had been absorbing essence all night and had only fallen asleep close to dawn, so he was still in deep sleep. However, after the knocking lasted more than a few times, he got up and looked at Caleb, who was snoring in his bed. Ning felt the urge to choke him right then and there, but quickly shook his head as the person outside continued to knock. "Goddamn, this is my day off. Let me sleep," he spoke to himself before going over to open the door. Outside was a middle-aged man that seemed to be from the academy based on the man's clothes. "Is your roommate around?" the middle-aged man asked. "Yes," Ning said, half awake without even turning around to look at Caleb, who was still snoring. "Do you need me to wake him up?" He really hoped that was the case, as that would give him permission to ruin his sleep. "Yes," the man said. "You guys have a package waiting for you in the parcel room. Make sure to relay the information to your roommate." "All right," Ning said and closed the door. He walked back into the room and looked at Caleb with drowsy eyes. Without hesitation, he kicked the bed as hard as he could without breaking it. Caleb felt the bed shake like an earthquake and quickly got up. What? He shouted as he looked around, only to find the disheveled Ning standing over him. "What?" he asked. "We have packages," Ning said. "It's in the parcel room." After saying that, Ning went over to his bed and fell asleep. He woke up sometime later around noon and found the room empty. Caleb seemed to have gone to his class. Their breaks never overlapped, so one would always be in class while the other had a free day. "Gosh, I'm hungry," Ning thought. The cafeteria would still have food, but for some reason, he wanted the tastier food from the restaurant this time around. He looked at his student card, which had a number written on the back. 32. That was the number of credits he had gathered in the last month, including the 20 free credits one got at the start of the academy. He had performed multiple types of tasks to reach that number in just 8 free days he had had until now, so he was quite proud of it. "I should treat myself to something tasty," he thought. As he opened the door to leave, he remembered the package he had gotten. Right, must be from Clara, he thought, and left the dorm. The package could wait, so he instead went over to the restaurant. He really wanted some rice this time around, so he got himself a bowl of rice with a variety of sides. It all cost him just 1 credit, so he was quite happy about it. He took his time eating the meal and only left nearly 20 minutes later when he was finished. By now, it was close to 2 from what he could tell. He wondered if he should go to get some missions so he could earn some credit to balance out the one he spent today. I'll decide that after I see what sort of package I've been sent, he thought, and went over to the parcel room. Ning, ning, ning. Here you go. A girl who was working in the room found the package that was for Ning. The package he was sent was wrapped in some nice-looking paper and was hard to the touch as well. Just from holding it, Ning could tell that it was most likely some sort of wood on the inside. Not only that, he could sense some essence on the inside as well now that he was holding it. However, that wasn't very important from what he could tell, as almost all of the packages in the parcel room had some sort of essence in them. Almost everyone who had a family member studying here wanted their child to have an easy time, so they sent some sort of essence treasure to help them. Ning looked at the package in the room for a bit before noticing something weird. "Excuse me, was this how it was when it got here?" he asked, pointing at a portion of the package that seemed to have been ripped off. Oh, the teachers open everyone's package to check if there is something on the inside that may be harmful to the student, the girl explained. "Ah, I see," Ning said. "Hope those bastards didn't steal anything inside." He went back to his room where he finally was free to open the package. He tore open the outer layer and revealed a wooden box inside, just as he had expected. He opened that too and finally saw the contents of the box. Inside the wooden box were 4 crystals and a single piece of paper. From how orderly they were in the box, Ning was certain that the teachers had looked through the content and placed it all back accordingly. He picked up the 4 crystals and looked at them. From what he could tell, they were all of the same quality as the last 2 crystals he was sent. 4 this time, huh? That's going to be a lot of help, honestly, he thought. While nowhere near as good as the fruit he had gotten, the 4 crystals would last him a month and would help him improve his essence rank quite a lot. If he got these crystals every month, he could reach the Reach Essence manifestation realm in just 2 more months. Ning quickly opened his closet and pulled out the earthen sword from within. Once out, he placed the 4 crystals into his bag and placed the sword right on top so that no one could steal from it. He was starting to learn that he was maybe worrying a little too much about it all, as it seemed that people found these crystals all over the place in all of the Glacian continents, but he still wanted to be safe with his items. Once he placed it all inside, he took the box and pulled out the letter from inside. It was a rather large letter with 2 pages entirely filled with words. Ning was surprised at how much they had written on it and just how long it was overall. The hell did they even write? He wondered. "Hello, son." "Son?" Ning was surprised for a bit and kept reading. "I hope you're doing well with your studies in the academy. We are very proud of what you've been able to achieve. Don't worry about back home. Your father is still plenty capable of taking care of himself." Ning continued reaching through the first paragraph of the page and nodded to himself. "I see," he thought. "They are still playing the role that I come from a small noble family in the Frolane Empire, huh?" Of course, that wasn't all there was to the letter at all. If they are going so far as to write this all, they must have used the secret code Clara was talking about, he thought to himself. How did the decryption go again? He wondered for a moment and started decrypting the code that was the letter. "That's F and an I, then an N and a D find, that's the first word." Ning got one letter at a time, reading through the entire letter to find the actual letter that was sent to him. Nearly 15 minutes later, he was finally done with decrypting the entire letter, and the real letter became apparent to him. Find out about the internal political situation in the White Owl region. Find out exactly why the Formans haven't taken over the region just yet. The White Owl region? Ning wondered for a bit. There were 5 regions in the Blackhawk Dominion. The region he was currently in was of course the Blackhawk region. To its right on the map was the Blue Sparrow region, and to its left was the Green Dove region. They were both ruled by great families. The Blue Sparrow region was ruled by the Orelus family, while the Green Dove region was ruled by the Haas family, the one that Caleb was from. The 3 regions were separated from the rest of the 2 regions due to the massive mountain range that went between them. Beyond the mountain range lay the Red Raven region to the left and the White Owl region to the right. Ning knew that the Red Raven region was ruled over by the Eulyrus family, while the White Owl was, while not officially, ruled by the Foreman family. However, it seemed that there was some reason why they weren't official yet. Damn girl. Give me more information if you want my help. Stop hiding stuff, Ning thought. Since she had asked, he would now have to help her as he had promised. The Foreman family, huh? I could ask 10, but that might be too direct, Ning thought to himself. No, I need to be more informed about everything before I even try to find out anything from 10. Ning decided to go visit the library for a change. He hoped there would be something in the books in the library regarding the White Owl region of the Black Hawk Dominion. His history classes talked about the way in the past and had yet to teach him anything about the current day at all. Ning quickly went to the library where he had to spend a credit to read anything he wanted for the rest of the day. It didn't matter if he was going to be staying for 2 minutes or 2 hours. Everyone paid the same entry fee. He went in and started looking for books that had to do with what he was asked to do. Unfortunately, there wasn't any book that had what he was looking for. However, after asking the librarian there, she pointed him toward the back of the library where they kept stacks of newspapers. Reading those would give him a perfect idea of what sort of history had transpired in these places in the last few decades. He got to the newspapers and started from the ones that were created 25 years ago. From the librarian, he understood that it was that time that the White Owl region went through a lot of changes. As he started reading through the newspaper, he picked up one thing after another about the region, and soon enough, he got a vague idea of what had happened. One day, the Grazer family that used to rule over the White Owl region, all died in a fire that razed their house. From the article that Ning read, including the servants and caretakers, not a single person managed to survive the fire at all. I see, so the ruling family just died one day, huh? Ning thought as he read the newspaper. Then why haven't the other families taken over? He wondered if there was some sort of competition between various houses in the White Owl region that was stopping the Foreman from becoming the official ruler of that domain. He went through the newspaper in chronological order and read up on the rest of the news regarding that incident. There wasn't much in the news after that, and all it said was that the Formans haven't officially taken over the Grazer family's place as the ruler despite already doing so unofficially. The journalists that wrote the news wondered if there was a reason why they were doing so, since the Foreman didn't say anything themselves. I'll need to understand a bit more, he thought to himself. He would try and ask 10 as well as he could, but he was sure he needed to ask someone else as well. Maybe Caleb knows, Ning thought. After all, he was from another one of the ruling families of the Black Hawk Dominion. He looked at the time and realized that it was close to sundown. 10 would probably be training right now, and despite his day off, Ning decided to go train with them. He arrived at the furthest platform, which was free for people to train on now that the classes had ended. There were about 20 people already on there, each of whom was fighting with wooden weapons. Ning walked up and took a sword for himself before waiting for someone to leave or come so he could join in. He looked around the platform, but he didn't find 10 at all. Is he working? He wondered. They did apparently share their day off, so it was possible. As he was wondering that, he heard someone shout his name from nearby. Ning turned around and saw 10, who had a basket full of small plants. Brother Ning, did you come to train? I thought you would be doing missions today, the man said. I was going to, but I had to go to the library quickly, so I skipped for today, he said. Now I'm here to train. Oh, wait for me. I will get these checked out and return after I'm credited, 10 said and ran off. Ning waited 10 minutes before 10 arrived once again. He quickly pulled out a sword from the pile and jumped into the platform. Let's go, he said and rushed toward Ning. Ning smiled and blocked the strike with a simple parry. He moved the sword to the right and slid it down 10's sword before going for the chest. 10 jumped back at the sudden reversal and jumped back in with a horizontal swing. Ning placed his sword vertically to the left and blocked the attack once again. He pushed the sword and made a stabbing motion. 10 swung his own sword and redirected the stab to not hit him. At the same time, he spun and came back with a diagonal swing. The two fought each other for a while before they slowed down in their intensity and just attacked for the sake of it. What were you doing in the library? Were you studying on your day off? 10 asked while laughing. Kind of, Ning said. I got a letter from my father today telling me to learn as much as I could about the nobilities of this dominion, so I went over to the library to learn what I could for now. Oh, and what did you learn? 10 asked curiously. Nothing, Ning said in an annoyed manner. There's literally nothing in there aside from some newspapers that barely hold any information at all. I'm probably better off asking a random person about it than reading about it in the library, he said. Those newspapers rarely get the full picture, so you should ask people instead, Ten said as he swung his sword. Ooh. Do you know much about the political structure of this world, Ten? Can you tell me what you know? Ning quickly asked. I know a few, but I don't involve myself with such matter to be of much help to you, I'm afraid, Ten said. You should know a few stuff that doesn't get mentioned in the newspapers, right? Ning asked. For example, if we were to ignore the Blackhawk region, which of the other 4 regions would you say is the strongest one? That's obviously the White Owl region that my family rules over, Ten said proudly. No other region is as safe as the White Owl region if we don't count the Blackhawk Dominion. Oh, is that so? Ning asked. Why is it the safest? Because of the Black Rock Mountain here. They go all the way to the east and wrap around the eastern part of the White Owl region, forming a natural barrier against any invasion that might happen. It is also geographically the farthest region, not counting the Blackhawk region of course from either the Springwind continent or the Blue Flame continent, making it that much safer, Ten said. Whoa, I see, Ning said. I really should have studied the map more. So, does that give you a political edge over the other 3 regions or something? It doesn't, the young man shook his head. What does though are the many essence crystal mines that can be found in the White Owl region? What? Ning asked rather loudly. There are many essence crystal mines in the White Owl region. HMPH. Where else do you think the white comes from in the name? Ten asked smugly. I see, Ning said. But wait, if the White Owl region is that good, and your family is definitely the strongest, then why aren't your elders officially becoming its rulers? I can't seem to make any sense of that at all. Who knows what's going on through that old brain of theirs? I swear it must have rotted already, Ten said. We all tell them to just make it official already, but they all keep saying just a few more years. I swear they are scared of the ghosts of the Grazer family haunting them or something. Ning tried finding more information about the Foreman family, but he couldn't succeed at all. Unfortunately for him, there wasn't anyone that had the exact information he had. So, he wrote an encrypted letter and sent it to a location in the city, which was a safe house of the Paradise Hunters. With this bit of information, Ning hoped they would be satisfied for now. Time continued passing and day after day, he improved. He was sent 4 more crystals the following month and 5 more the month after that, as Ning had written normally in his letters that he was close to reaching the essence manifestation realm and would reach it in just a few months if he got more pure essence. Ning continued with his studies for the time being and also continued his training with Ten. He slowly improved his essence rank as well, getting closer and closer to reaching the essence manifestation realm. One day, after the theoretical essence class was over, Ning stood up to leave. It was lunch now, so he wanted to go eat some food. However, before he could get out, the teacher walked in front of him and blocked him. He was a little surprised and looked at the young middle-aged man. Teacher Hyan, how can I help you? Ning asked. Student Ning, how are you doing these days? How's your essence training going on? The teacher asked. Ning got a little confused, but he answered honestly. Everything is all right, I suppose, he said. Do you mind following me somewhere? It will take an hour or so, the teacher said. An hour? But I will miss my lunchtime, he said. It's fine, right? If you're very hungry I can meet you after you have some lunch, the teacher said. No, I'm not particularly hungry, but I would like not to go without it if possible, Ning said. Then you don't mind having lunch afterward? The teacher asked. Not necessarily, but I don't see how I can have lunch when not in my lunchtime. If I miss my class, I will have to give up credit, so there is that problem, Ning said. If you come with me, I will give you 5 credits, the teacher hurriedly said. He was starting to get annoyed by all the useless talk. Oh, where are we going, teacher? Ning asked. To the training hall, the teacher said and took Ning along. Ning still didn't have any idea what was happening exactly, but he was more than happy to go to a training hall. It had been over 3 months since he had come to the academy by now and had yet to test himself. He hadn't even tested himself since the test to enter the academy, so he was curious to see how much he had improved in time. The teacher took him to the training hall and started with the physical tests. He tested his physical strength and senses. Ning realized that while he had definitely improved in those regions, he hadn't improved as well as he should have. Or at least, the improvement wasn't as drastic as it was early on. Instead of being as strong as 25 humans, he was now as strong as 27 humans. While an increment, Ning didn't care about this increment at all. His senses were the same as well. While improved, they didn't improve as well as he would have hoped they would. They did say the improvement got worse and worse as we got stronger, Ning thought. Then, he moved on to the essence sense test. Ning hadn't taken this test before, but it was rather easy. All he had to do was see if he could tell the differences between the various different elemental essences at various different sizes and distances. They used all the information to formulate just how strong one's essence senses were. The teacher's eyes went wide when he realized that Ning had nearly as good an essence sense as him, and he was a bloody high essence soul realm ranker. He couldn't believe it at all. Pure essence sure is amazing, he spoke softly to himself before turning to Ning. What essence absorption skill do you use? Did your father get you anything special? Absorption skill. I use the generic twin moon essence absorption skill, teacher, Ning said. No way. The teacher said. You can't be this good with such a shitty skill, pardon my language. Well, I am, Ning said. Can I test your essence? The teacher said. Test my essence? Ning was a little confused for a moment. Oh, you mean the essence in my core? Sure. The teacher nodded and placed his palm on Ning's abdomen where the core would be and closed his eyes to get the best sense he could. He sensed the pure essence floating around in Ning's core and slowly his eyes widened. He didn't just sense the purity in his core either, but the strength as well. Wait, you're close to breaking through to the essence manifestation realm, the teacher said. Yes, Ning said. That's amazing news. The teacher shouted all of a sudden, surprising Ning. That was exactly what I was worried about and now I don't have to worry about it at all. What do you mean? Ning asked. Oh sorry, I was supposed to tell you this before I celebrated, the teacher said. Say, you know about the interschool competition that is held every year, right? I'm aware of it, although not entirely, Ning said. Good. You see, the next one is being held in about 2 months and we are looking for students to take part in it, and I think you are a perfect choice, the teacher said. I don't know teacher, I'm not even at essence manifestation realm, so wouldn't that be a big problem? Ning asked. Don't worry, the teacher said. I don't need you to fight or anything. All I need you to do is show up and show off just how pure your essence is, and with that, I think we are set for quite a few points this time around. The interschool competitions took place between 10 major schools in the continent, 7 of which was in the Blackhawk Dominion with 2 in the Frolane Empire and 1 in the Osager Empire. Each year, the schools were ranked based on how well their students performed in various different categories of tests and challenges. Ning was chosen to take part in one of the tests, which is the one where the students showed that they had the purest essence in all of the 10 major schools. Ning thought for a moment if he wanted to do this or not. It would definitely be something fun for sure, so he didn't find any reason to refuse the offer. When did you say it was being held? Ning asked. 2 months. Yes, 2 months later, the teacher quickly answered. And, I have to reach the essence manifestation realm to be able to participate in this, right? He asked. Yes, the teacher said excitedly. Do you think you can do this? Ning gave a thoughtful look. I don't know, he said. I would love to take part in this competition, teacher, but I'm not sure I can reach the essence manifestation realm with just 2 months left. After all, I come from a not very rich family, so my father can't afford to send me too many pure crystals to cultivate it. And unfortunately, without those crystals, my improvement slows down a lot. Unless there is a way to improve my essence without those crystals, I'm not sure I can do it, teacher, Ning said with a sad look on his face. How many crystals will you need? The teacher asked. Sorry. Ning looked up innocently. How many? I will request it on behalf of the school to get you ready for the competition, the teacher said. Is that all right? Ning asked. What if I end up failing? I don't want to owe the academy anything. You won't, the teacher said. It's an investment, and it's an investment the school will be willing to make. Just tell me the number. 10, Ning said. If I have 10 very pure crystals, I'm sure I can do it. Are you absolutely sure? The teacher asked. You need to do this. Shit, should I ask for more? Ning wondered. This idiot might just give me more if I ask for it. Wait, no, he might see through me if I get too greedy. No, teacher. 10 is enough. With what my father sends me each month, it will be more than enough to reach the essence manifestation realm in just 2 months, Ning told the teacher. The teacher excitedly smiled. Good, he said. Wait here, I'll bring you your crystal. Right now. Ning looked at the teacher with surprise, while the teacher rushed out of the door. He waited in the training room, looking around at everything. Should I give the turtle a visit? He wondered. That would honestly be the best way to improve right now. However, doing so would definitely put a dent in the normal adventure he wanted to have. But it will take me hundreds of thousands of years to reach the peak of what is possible with essence in this world. Do I spend all those years normally? He wondered. He considered the idea of cheating, just using his real body to enjoy it all. However, a few moments later he paused. Why do I need to reach the peak? He thought. It was not like he had put a goal in his adventure or anything. Just because he could reach the peak, didn't mean he had to. He was here for an adventure, and there was more than just one way to have those. That settles it then, he thought. There's no need to get those fruits. Get what fruits? The teacher suddenly asked. Oh, nothing. When did you come back? Ning asked as he turned toward the teacher. Just now, he said. The crystal is kept nearby. Here, take it. He handed over 10 pieces of crystals, all of which were about the same size as what Clara sent him each month. With this many crystals, he was bound to reach the next rank easily. I promise you, teacher, I will make it to the manifestation realm before the competition starts, he said. I'm counting on you, the teacher said. You can leave now. You should at least make it to your weapons training class after you have your lunch. Thanks, Teacher Hyan, Ning said and turned around to leave. Actually, he stopped and turned around. One more question before I leave. How many days will the competition last? And if I will have to be there for the entirety of it? The competition lasts, well, it's somewhere between 10 and 15 days depending on how it all goes, the teacher explained. As for if you will have to stay there for the entirety of it, I will say yes. The competition ground is always the academy. If it was taking place here, you wouldn't have to worry about staying for the entirety of the competition, but since the competition is taking place in the Light Dance Academy, I'm afraid you will have to stay there the entire time, the teacher said. I hope you are okay with missing a few weeks' worths of classes. I'm okay with that, Ning said. Light Dance Academy, where is that exactly? The Osager Empire? No, it's in the Black Hawk Dominion. It's south of the Black Rock Mountains toward the east, the teacher said. It will take us 3 days to reach there. I see, Ning said. South, east. His eyes narrowed a bit as he realized something. It takes place in the White Owl region? He asked. Oh yes, it's a few kilometers outside of White Owl City, the teacher said. I see, Ning said. Thank you for the information. Ning left the area with a curious expression on his face. What a coincidence, he thought. Clara really wants some answers, so I should be able to get some for her during this time. He then looked at the crystals in his hand. Time to put you to good use. It didn't even take Ning 10 crystals to reach the essence manifestation realm. With just 9 crystals in a little over a month, he reached the essence manifestation realm, reaching the required rank to enter the interschool competition. He had done it the night before his day off, so he was free the rest of the day to do whatever he wanted. And there was nothing he wanted more than to learn a skill. As soon as he woke up and ate something, he rushed to the skill shop in the academy, where one could purchase skills using their credits. Ning had managed to amass a total of 45 credits by now, so he really hoped he got something good with that sort of money. He had prepared for this moment also by studying what was possible and what he could do. The most important thing he realized was the advantage that he had against every other essence user out there. That was the fact that his essence was incredibly pure, with almost no elemental alignment. This made it so that if he wanted to, he could go for any and all elemental skills. He could even go for the rarest essence skills and easily use them while someone with an elementally aligned core could not. Of course, there were also a few problems with having pure essence. Since pure did not exist as an element, pure essence also couldn't be turned into anything directly. The essence had to first go through a small change within the human body to change its element before coming out as that element. For example, if he wanted to use a simple skill like a wind slice, he would have to first turn the pure essence into wind essence, which took some time since his body wasn't aligned with wind, and then the wind essence turned into a wind slice. This change in essence caused a delay in time, which caused an opening that any skilled fighter could take advantage of. Ning wasn't yet sure just how much of a delay there was, but he would have to make sure to train a whole lot so he could somehow remedy this delay with something else. He arrived at the skill shop and was more than happy that he didn't have to pay to get it. He knew he already had to pay for the skills, so having to pay for getting into the room as he had with the library would have been annoying. The skill shop was in fact a massive room with multiple shelves all around the wall in the center of the room. Ning looked around with a surprised look at just how massive it was. He wondered if they had destroyed the walls of 3 classrooms to prepare this room. He walked in slowly and looked around the room. There weren't many people in here, but there were still enough to consider the place crowded. Everyone was going around the shelves looking at the various books that were on there. Ning walked up to the shelf that was closest to him and picked a random book off it. He flipped the book and read the name of the skill. Water Rap. He thought with a curious expression. He flipped a page to read just what the skill did. Creates 2 puddles of water at the distance that wrap around whatever is above them. Once wrapped, the water freezes and creates a hold that your enemy can't get out of easily, he read. He closed the book and put it back before taking another one out. Raining Arrows. Creates rain in a limited location where the water pours down with each droplet falling in the shape of an arrow. Ning put the book back as well and pulled out another one. Water Heal. Wrap a wound with water to cover up any wound and improve its recovery. Why is it all water? Ning wondered and looked around the shelf for a bit before noticing a small board at the top of the shelf that said, Water Skills. Oh, he thought. I'm in the water section. He looked around at the various shelves and wondered which section he should go for. What do I need? Ning wondered for a moment. As far as he was concerned, he needed 4 different skills. An offensive skill, a defensive skill, a skill that helped with movement, and a skill that helped him escape should a problem arise that he couldn't handle. Offensive should be fire, right? He thought. Defensive can be earth. Movement is probably wind, and escape, I don't know. That can be anything. He walked away from the water shelf and went over to the other shelves to check what else there was. He came across a shelf that surprised him for a moment. Right, there are more than just those 4 elements, he thought. Stupid me, I should consider the others too when looking for skills. Very quickly, Ning found a skill that was going to be his offensive skill. It cost him 12 credits, which he was not happy about, but it was what it was. He then went over to another shelf and got a defensive skill from there. The skill cost him 10 credits, which he understood because of how good it was. Next, he searched for a movement skill. However, he found his escape skill before the movement one. The escape skill cost him over 18 credits by it alone. Ning was a little mad that it cost so much. However, given just how good it was, he didn't want to not get it. In the end, he was left with 5 credits only for the movement skill. Ning went around the room looking at cheap skills, but the only one he could find for 5 credits was a wind skill that made him slightly less resistant to wind. Once he got all 4 books, he went over to buy them. After spending all the credits he had, Ning left the skill shop to go and earn some more. 2 days before the competition was to start in the White Owl region, Ning and everyone else that was to take part in it was gathered behind the academy in one of the barren mountains. Ning looked around at the nearly 30 different students that were to take part in the said competition. He, of course, was going to take part in only a single one of the competitions, so he was sure it was the same for a lot of them as well. However, even though he was going to the competition wasn't his main goal this time around at all. His goal was to go to White Owl City and learn as much as he could about the current politics for the foreman. He had been wondering just how he was going to be able to do this for quite a while, but it was only today that he realized how easy it most likely was going to be. I can't believe you are taking part in the competition too, Ning said to Ten, who was close to him. Yes, I'm going to be in the under-17 competitions, Ten said proudly. I see, Ning said. He was going to have to use this kid to find out more about his family somehow. He looked around and saw a few familiar faces in the group as well. One of them was Teacher Hyan, who had been rather helpful to Ning for the past couple of months and was the main reason Ning could even reach the essence manifestation realm this early. There was also his roommate Caleb. Although, Ning wasn't sure why he was there as the two didn't talk outside of when needed. Other than that, there was Yorsha Eulyris, a daughter of the Red Raven family. She was a prodigy when it came to using fire essence, and since he was in most of the same classes as her, Ning knew that she was very talented. Other than that, there were two other people that he knew about simply because of how popular they were. A young man and a young woman stood side by side, surrounded by a few people who smiled unnaturally to talk with them. The two teenagers were dressed in completely black clothes from top to bottom and had rather cold looks on their faces. They were the son and daughter of the middle son of the current ruler of the Blackhawk Dominion, Fainer Black. The young man was named Alan Black, and the young girl was named Elena Black, and they were the prince and princess with the most popular in the entire Dominion right now. Both of them were in third-year classes, so Ning didn't know much about them other than what everyone else knew. "Everyone is here, right?" the headmaster asked as he looked around. The teachers nodded in response. "Great, the carriages should be waiting for us past the mountain, let's go," he said. The group of 30 students and 10 teachers walked away from the peak. They walked for an extra 2 hours before they arrived at the bottom of the next mountain where the carriages were waiting for them. Ning panicked a little when he saw the carriages, as the ones pulling the carriages weren't normal horses, but rather in essence beasts. He hadn't seen one for nearly half a year since he had entered the academy and was surprised to see one here at all. "No, I don't have to worry," Ning reminded himself. "I haven't had the fruit in months, so I should be fine." As he expected, none of the beasts showed any response to him when he got close. He got onto one of the carriages along with 10 and a few other young men and 2 teachers, and the carriage moved. The beasts that were pulling the carriage were strong enough that even if they ran for 2 days straight, they wouldn't feel tired at all. Not only that, but because they had essence in them, they didn't even need to eat anything at all. As such, the team had no reason to stop anywhere and could reach their destination in just a single day. "So, where does our school stand amongst the 10 exactly?" Ning asked the group. It came second last year, but that was all because of a student that the Blue Spark Academy had last year. The student graduated this year, and they don't have anyone else right now who can do as best. So, best case scenario, they take the 3rd spot this year. Meaning, we have a very high chance of getting first this year around, the teacher said seriously. "High chance? So we're not confident in winning it all, huh?" Caleb asked. "Which other academy is there that can beat us?" "The Essence Heart Academy is just as good as us," the teacher said. "Since they're from the Osager Empire, they get a lot of the good students that we don't, and thus have one of the best students with them. If not for the fact that we are the Blackhawk Academy and students from far away come to join us, we would definitely lose to them this year around," the teacher said. "I see," Ning said. "So they are a serious threat to our overall victory, huh?" Ning thought. "Whatever, we can still win." "That is the plan," the teacher said. "We are going to do our best throughout the various competitions and hope that we rank high in most of them. The most important ones are obviously the ones that include battles, so you guys who are going to fight will have to be ready. Especially you, 10. "Yes, sir," 10 said quickly. The teacher explained a few more things about the competition, which Ning and the others listened to quietly while asking questions from time to time. The carriage continued without any interruption, and by the time the sun had come up the next day, they were close to arriving at their destination. The Light Dance Academy. The Blackhawk Academy members arrived at the beautiful grassland past which was the Light Dance Academy. Someone was already there, waiting to welcome them, so they only had to follow the person to go to the academy. Ning looked out through the window and was a little surprised to see how normal an academy it was. With massive front gates, a beautiful garden, and students coming in and out, this was what an academy should have been in the first place. Not the barren wasteland-looking gloomy place that the Blackhawk Academy was. "Let's get off," the teacher said once they all arrived and were the first to get off. Then, one after another the students got off too. Ning breathed the fresh air of this new place, feeling as though he hadn't smelled something this natural in months. He felt as though he finally got a sufficient amount of oxygen in a single breath, which felt impossible in the plant-less academy. "Hello, I am your guide." A girl in her 20s came and greeted the group. "You all must be tired from your journey. Please let me take you to your quarters where you can rest for now." "That would be lovely, Miss Yelena," Prince Alan spoke to the pretty girl that had appeared as their guide. "I'm flattered that Prince Alan remembers one such as this," the girl said with a smile. But somehow Ning could sense some sort of anger or annoyance behind her words. The prince gulped once and looked around before answering, "Of course, Why wouldn't I remember you, Miss Helena? You were one of the best participants in last year's competition. The girl narrowed her eyes at the prince and scoffed softly before turning towards the other. Please, follow me. She turned around and entered the academy ground. Ning looked around at the academy with quite a bit of fascination. True to its name, there were objects made from light essence that were floating around the academy, as if in a synchronized dance. Ning looked at the large building that was the main academy, but the girl turned left, taking them to a smaller building toward the side. The Ash Wind Academy, Crimson Wings Academy, Dream Dust Academy, and Peace World Academy have already arrived. The Essence Heart Academy, the Grand Will School, the Blue Spark Academy, and Frolane Academy have yet to arrive. You may visit them if you wish later, but they should be resting right now, the girl explained. Please take us to our place of stay for now, the headmaster spoke and everyone was brought along. The building was where the guests stayed and it seemed that not just anyone was allowed. These 5 rooms are yours to stay in. Please choose amongst yourself how you want to divine who gets to stay where, and please remember not to go to any other room besides these ones. Here are the keys. The girl handed the 5 keys over. I will be heading out now. Please rest for now, but if you don't want to, there should be people around that are waiting to give you a tour of the academy. Also, if you wish to leave the academy grounds, please don't forget to take a token with you so we know to let you back in. Due to the event, the security has been tightened and not just anyone can get back here. The girl left after saying that, leaving the 40-some people to decide who got to live where. Since there are more boys than girls, the boys will take 3 rooms and the girls will take 2, the headmaster explained. The rooms should be large enough, so no one should have any problem. The teachers will all split and stay with the students, so let me choose who stays with who. Ning was to stay with 8 other people, of which one was the prince. Neither Caleb nor Ten got into his group, but teacher Hyan did, which he was at least thankful for. Having at least one person he could talk with was not bad, since everyone here was a senior anyway, he would have appeared respectful at least. The teacher opened the door and everyone walked in. Whoa, this is larger than I thought it would be, one of the students said, clearly surprised by the size of the room. The room was large, maybe even unnecessarily large, with about 10 meters of width and 15 meters in length. It was better to call it a hall than a simple room. There were about 15 total beds all over the room with closets next to each one. I will be taking this bed, the prince said and took the best bed in the room, one that was right by the window. Ning frowned a little as he would love to stay by the window, but since the prince took it, he had no choice but to choose some random one. He didn't care what bed he got at this point or if he put his clothes into the closet, he was too tired and simply wanted to fall asleep. So, he jumped onto the bed and let his body relax. Within minutes he was deep asleep. Not everyone slept, but those that didn't still rest for a bit before leaving. Ning woke up sometime later late in the afternoon. He looked outside and the sun was still bright in the sky. He found the bathroom that was attached to the room and freshened up before leaving the room. He closed the door behind him and walked over to another one which he knew was where Ten was staying. He looked inside, but Ten wasn't there at all. Where the hell did that kid go? He wondered. He needed his help to find out more about the political situation of this region now that he was here, but he couldn't find him at all. He must have left already, Ning thought, and left the building. Since he was already here, he decided to take a tour of the academy, so he went ahead and found himself a guide to do so. The day of the competition was here and everyone prepared to leave for the arena that was set up a bit of a distance away from the academy. Because the many academies needed outside funds to run this competition year after year, they did so by commercializing the competition so that people could pay for it and watch it. However, because there were outsiders that were going to watch it, the competition needed to take place somewhere close to where the people could stay. So, instead of it taking place inside the Light Dance Academy, the competition was now taking place a few distances south of the academy, perfectly in between it and White Owl City. The people that came from all around the world to view this competition could stay in that city and come watch it. Ning looked around the group and finally saw Ten. Hey, brother Ten, he called out to him. Where were you yesterday? I searched for you, but I couldn't find you at all. Oh, Ten looked around and got closer. I sneaked out to go see my family for the night. It's been half a year, so my mother was quite worried about me. Ah, I see, Ning said. Did you need something from me? Ten asked. Yeah, I was hoping I could stay with me. I don't really know anyone else here, so I felt quite awkward being alone, he said. Oh, you should make some friends while you can, Brother Ning, the young man said. Ning sighed a little. Should he just come out and say it? Maybe that would be easier than trying to move around the topic. Actually, I was hoping if you could help me a little too, now that we are here, he said. Of course, anything, the young man said. What do you want my help with? Remember what I told you some while ago. My father wants me to learn about the political structure of everything. I was hoping you could help me do that for the White Owl region. Since this is your homeland, you should be able to help me quite a bit, he said. Tan thought for a bit. I think I can help you with that, but there is a slight problem with it too. What sort of problems? Ning asked. Tan thought to himself without speaking for quite a while. The group started moving and soon they all on the road. Even then, Tan continued thinking for a while without speaking. This is going to be annoying, he said softly. Are you all right, Brother Ten? Ning asked. Yeah, and I also know the perfect way to help you. But in doing so, I might die, Ten said seriously. What? Why? Ning asked. Because the place where you can find all the information at once is just that dangerous, Ten said. Ning wondered what sort of place was this place that even a young lord of the biggest family in the White Owl region had to fear his death. That all comes afterward though, Brother Ning. We first need to know how we're even going to the city at all. We can't sneak out now that the competitions are underway, and unfortunately, I can't go late at night, Ten said. Ning thought for a bit. When is your competition? The under-18 one? He asked. 6th day, I think? The last 4 are for everyone to take part in, Ten said. Mine's on the 4th, so I think it's fine to say that we will be free to do anything after your competition ends, right? Ning asked. Oh, yeah, Ten said. Maybe we can persuade the teachers to let us leave a bit early at that time? Ning whispered. We'll have to see when the time comes, Ten said and continued on his way. That's one step closer to getting the answer for her, Ning thought. Is she really one of the grazers? Does she perhaps know the truth of how her people died? Is that why the foreman is so desperate to kill her, to hide the truth? Whatever the reason was, Ning would find out soon and pay her back for everything she had done for him by now. The group walked to the arena, arriving early around 9 a.m. There were already quite a few people in the arena taking care of everything that was handling the behind the scenes of the competition. There were also quite a few people already there to watch the competition, even though it wouldn't start for another hour most likely. Ning looked towards the front where his headmaster was trash-talking the headmaster of another academy that he recognized to be the Essence Heart Academy. He knew there was rivalry between the two academies as they were most likely the strongest among the 10. As for which one was exactly the strongest, each of the headmasters would give a different answer each time. Ning didn't care for their petty rivalry. He didn't even care about the prince trying to flirt with every single pretty girl he came across. He just wanted to find that information as quickly as he could. They entered the arena, and Ning sat on his academy's designated seat. He waited for a bit and soon the arena filled up with people from outside. After a while, the arena filled to the brim as people came in droves to watch it. The audience sat around their seats and a few people arrived in the arena below to announce the start of the tournament. Welcome to the 78th Interschool Essence Tournament. We are humbled to have you all here to support us and the young generation that decides what holds for the future of this land. The host of the entire competition, the headmaster of the Light Dance Academy, gave his speech. He spoke for a few more minutes, giving a captivating speech. Now then, without any further ado, let us bring out the participants for the first competition of the tournament. One after another, young students appeared in the arena. The crowd cheered at their sight as the interschool tournament officially began. Ning watched the first day of the tournament started. The first day was surprisingly full of little fun competitions that he didn't mind sitting through at all. There were some weightlifting competitions, races, swimming, and even some gymnastics. He had been expecting just simple competitions where they fought or compared their strengths, but this was much more fun. That was not to say there weren't any fights either. The first day ended with an all-out battle royale where many padded-up competitions fought against each other with staffs that were so thick that they had to carry it in their arms. There were many shenanigans that happened there that made Ning wish that he was part of the competition too. However, since this group was selected very early on and trained for these very purposes, as someone who only just entered the essence manifestation realm, he could not take part at all. Still, he enjoyed the matches as best as he could. The first day ended around 3 in the afternoon and the final points were tallied up. The Blackhawk Academy was in the lead by 197 points, an entire 20 points above the second place holder, the Essence Heart Academy. The other academies followed behind them, but not that far either. Once the numbers were revealed, everyone left the arena. "You guys did good," the headmaster said on the way back. "Continue doing as well and we will certainly take the lead in this tournament." The students nodded and went back to their rooms in the Light Dance Academy. Ning went to sleep since he had been awake for over a day now. Also, he wanted to wake up in the middle of the night to absorb some essence and be on the way to the next rank, which was the Essence Soul Realm. That was the realm where one's essence formed a soul and could be used as a physical manifestation by itself too. Ning was looking forward to this realm as it seemed it changed the way one fought quite a bit. The second day came around and there was a whole new set of competitions that were to take place on this day. The competitions consisted of matches that focused on one's 5 senses. Sight, smell, taste, touch, and sound all had various competitions around them. There were memory games, counting games, games where you recognized the flavors of a pie, games where you had to guess what beast was inside the giant cage, and so on. Blackhawk did quite well, but Essence Heart took the lead this time around. They ended up gaining 16 points more than Blackhawk Academy and were only 4 points behind in overall points. The headmaster spoke of how they had to do better for tomorrow. Even without being told what the focus of the third day's competitions would have, Ning would have guessed that it focused on one's essence sense. There were various competitions this day too, but they were quite long and perhaps even more fun to watch. From having to pile a bunch of treasures based on the element of essence they held, to a maze that one had to go through blindfolded, only relying on the essence clues that were left inside. Ning wished he had a chance to play in that maze too, but alas, he would never get the turn. The third day of the competition ended with Blackhawk once again claiming overwhelming victory, increasing their point gap by over 25 in a single day, ending up at 29 points difference when compared to the Essence Heart Academy. In fact, the Ash Wind Academy was actually catching up to the Essence Heart Academy with only a 9 points gap. The fourth day came around. This was the day that Ning had come for. "You are taking part today, right?" Ten asked. "Yes, it should be a quick one though," he said. "Go on, there is nothing to be nervous about. They will just check your essence purity by having you use 2 separate natural conduits, that's it," the teacher Hyan said, trying to make Ning feel good before he went onto the stage. Ning didn't need such silly words to appear before an audience, but he appreciated the intention behind it. He appeared on the stage, surrounded by thousands of people watching him and the 9 others that had come onto the stage with him. It seemed that finding people with pure essence wasn't the easiest thing, and so each academy could only produce a single one at best. "Please come in front," the person conducting the competition spoke and had all 10 people line up for something. In front of them was a massive block of wood that seemed to have some sort of liquid spilled below it. It was set at the base of a slanted platform that had a slight inclination the further it went from the group. "Use the wind conduit to send out a gust of air. Push the conduit as far as you can," the man said. "I see," Ning thought. He understood what their intention was with the competition. Natural conduits had advantages and disadvantages to them when compared to skills or man-made conduits. Natural conduits had great flexibility in what they produced in that the shape of the essence could be as large as the conduit could handle. As opposed to man-made conduits which had very limited flexibility and skills that had no flexibility at all. However, at the same time, natural conduits couldn't scale with the user. If the user was stronger than the natural conduit could handle, the conduit would break, which would never be the case with man-made conduits or skills. Ning understood that they had chosen a natural conduit so that the competitors could create as much wind as they could, without the wind being excessively strong due to a person's essence rank. That meant, in the end, the thing that would determine victory was how good the person's pure essence was so that they lost the least amount of essence during the conversion from the conduits. The first person walked up front and grabbed the natural wind conduit. He closed his eyes and focused his essence on using the conduit. Assuming that he did not have a core that was aligned with the wind element, the purer his essence the further the large block of wood would go. The wood was set on a small incline so it wouldn't move with just inertia, and the young man pushed against it. Everyone on stage felt the wind move around them as a large amount of it was created right in front of them. They saw the wooden block move up the incline and a few officials recorded the distance. The young man could only keep it pushed until a certain distance before the wind he produced lost enough force to keep the block at a specific place. 5.2 meters, one of the officials spoke up the number. The young man breathed once again and walked back. Then, the next person walked up. 4.7, 5.6, 4.4, 5.1. The record was around the same number and one of them was certainly winning. After about 7 people, it was Ning's turn. Everyone looked at him curiously, wondering what record he would get. The student from the Essence Heart Academy had gotten an amazing 6.1 meters record, so since Blackhawk Academy had been doing better, they were all curious to see what Ning could do. Ning grabbed the wind conduit and focused his essence. He didn't need to change the essence, so he only poured it into the conduit. Then, he willed a gust of air into existence that pushed against the wooden block. The wooden block was immediately pushed upward by the air as it jumped nearly 7 meters in a single push. Everyone looked surprised by the amazing record, but Ning wasn't done yet. He increased the amount of essence he was using to the best of his ability and soon the wooden block started moving higher and higher. It moved high until it was 7.7 meters up the incline. Ning couldn't push it any further, so he had to let the block remain there for a small period of time before he could stop. 7.7 meters, the official announced his record and finally Ning stopped. He felt breathless and took a few deep breaths. He moved away and let the remaining 2 people go ahead, but both of the 2 people knew they were no match for this record. The contestants and the officials looked at Ning in awe as they wondered just how he could have possibly trained to have such a pure essence. Damn bastard must have a wind-aligned core, someone spoke softly. He got lucky with the competition. The next contestants went and the results were set. Ning had won with the student from the Essence Heart Academy coming second. Unfortunately, this record didn't help Ning at all, not yet at least. Since it could be that these people got lucky with their core being aligned with the task, they had to go through another test before the average was used to score them. The next task involved an earth conduit. Your task will be to create a sphere of rock as large as you can. The one with the highest diameter will win, the official stated. You cannot make hollow spheres or you will be disqualified. The sphere's diameter will be calculated by measuring the diameter of your sphere in 3 random directions and using the average. However, if the difference between any of the 2 readings ends up being more than 20 centimeters, your smallest reading will be counted as your official one. So, please take care to not make any oblate shapes if you can. You will have exactly 10 seconds to make one as large as you can. Once the explanations were over, the competition began a minute later. The order of this test was the same as the last, so the first person that went back then also went this time around as well. As soon as the timer began, he imagined a sphere forming using the earth conduit and suddenly a rock started growing on the ground in front of him. The spherical rock was small at first, but it quickly got bigger and bigger until it was a massive sphere in front of everyone's eyes. The earth conduit was taken away from the young man the moment the 10 seconds were over and the sphere stopped growing. A few of the staff started measuring the radius and very soon the first result of this test was out. 2.6 meters. The stone sphere that was formed was larger than any human that stood there. The other contestants looked at it and knew what it was that they had to win. One after another, more and more contestants went for their own test. The rocks didn't immediately disappear, so they were taken to the side for comparison. Once again, the student from the Essence Heart School did an amazing job, creating a 3.2 meters wide rock. As the rock grew larger, creating even a 0.01 meter wider rock needed more rock than the last 0.01 meter. The amount of essence required grew exponentially with even the slightest increment in the rock's diameter, so everyone cheered for the winner until now. Then, Ning walked up to do it as well. He took the earth conduit and looked at the person that was responsible for the timer. As soon as he gave the go, Ning started. Immediately a small rock formed in front of him that was smooth and sphere. It grew by the second, becoming more and more massive with each passage of time. Ning continued pouring in his essence until it was taken away from him. Then, he opened his eyes and looked at the behemoth of a rock that stood in front of him. Wow, Ning himself couldn't help but say. Not only was the rock a nearly perfect sphere, but it was also quite smooth, which Ning was surprised by. The staff took the measurements, but even without them everyone knew that Ning had won. When the results were published, no one was surprised at all. 3.8 meters wide. That was the diameter of the rock that Ning made. It was clear who won this competition. Ning emerged as the proud victor amongst the 10 and gained his school another huge lead. He went back to the stands where he was greeted by his fellow students and seniors. "Congrats, brother Ning. You truly blew it out of the water with this competition," Ten said. "Haha, it was nothing," Ning said with a slight smile. "I can't believe that was you just a few weeks late at entering the next rank. We would have to most likely lose," Teacher Hyan said. "You did the academy a great service." "It's nothing special," Ning said. "All the other students have done the same too." "No, they have, but this is a little different. Because of how rare it is to have pure essence, this one competition holds more weight than you would think. You got us 50 points today, increasing our lead by 5 more against the Essence Heart Academy." "Oh, I wasn't aware of that," Ning said. "I thought combat ones were the only ones that gave us more than normal points." "They are, but so does this one just because of how special it is," the teacher explained. A few more people congratulated Ning. Caleb nudged him a little to the side and spoke. "Not bad. You were good out there," he said. Ning chuckled when he heard that. "Thanks," he said. His relationship with Caleb had never gone past roommate into friends, all because Caleb would always look down on him for having a weak essence rank. However, after he had improved so much, he seemed to be getting along a bit better. Soon enough, Ning could even call him an acquaintance. Everyone continued watching the rest of the tournament that day. The following competitions had to do with the 4 main elemental essences that were available for people. Different tests for wind, fire, earth, and water were held, each of which was a spectacle to watch, but none of them brought any more points than normal. The 5th day was a unique day for the tournament. It was the last day of the non-combat competitions and was a continuation of yesterday's competitions. Only, this day, the different tests were held for unique elemental essences that one normally didn't get to see in day-to-day life. Any variation of the 4 elements, such as ice or sand, was counted as well, as long as it was obvious that such essences were not so easy to get. Essences such as light and darkness were what was easily accepted. Light essence was the 5th most common essence, but due to its rarity, it was still considered a rare essence. The variations of the other elements, aside from sand, were considered rarer than it in the Blackhawk Dominion, so everything else counted. Because the lower half of the Glacian Empire fell near the equator line, there were multiple instances of deserts all around the continent, making it the only element that wasn't considered rare. Because the elements were unique and the participants were in the essence manifestation realm, they were made to put on a spectacle, however, they wanted, and gain the most point they could. The entire day was a fun one as Ning and the others enjoyed this day very much. Ning got to see the princess's essence. It was surprisingly moonlight essence, the closest thing there was to pure essence. She won her school the competition that day, sending the Blackhawk Academy high in the ranks that even the Essence Heart couldn't seem to touch. "Good work, everyone," the headmaster said. "You all did incredible these past 5 days. However, just because we are winning doesn't mean we can afford to take it easy. With the combat competitions holding the most amount of points, we need to make sure the other academies don't snatch it at all." "Yes, headmaster," the group spoke in unison. The headmaster nodded. "Go back and rest. Tomorrow is going to be a hectic day." Ning walked back with Ten, speaking to him softly. "Will you be free after tomorrow?" he asked. "Hopefully not," Ten said. "Me being free tomorrow would mean I lost. I need to go into day 7 at least, which is the final day for under 16 combat." "Oh, then after day 7, Ning said. "I'm sure you will make it there easily. I have faith in you." Ten smiled and nodded. "I hope so too, brother." They arrived back at where they were staying and had some meal that was prepared for them before they went to sleep. Only 5 people were taking part in tomorrow's competition, but even then, everyone acted like they had some stake in it. The next day, they arrived at the arena once more and got ready. 5 of the younger folks left their group and went along with a teacher to get registered for their fight. Ning and the rest waited and watched as the arena slowly filled with the audience. The arena seemed to be filled more than normal today. Perhaps because the non-combat competitions had ended, People were finally back to see what they were really here to see. People with essence fighting each other. Even though it was the younger, more unpracticed ones fighting, it was still quite fun to see for people, so they were all here for it. This was also going to be Ning's first time properly sitting down and watching someone else fight without himself being in the thick of it. He waited and watched as 50 different contestants came onto the large arena and presented themselves to everyone. They all then moved to their respective corners around the stage and waited for the first match to begin. Before the match started, however, a massive barrier appeared around the stage that was completely transparent but was also strong enough to stop any and all attacks that went out of the stage. Then, the host started explaining how the competition was going to be held. Ning couldn't help but be surprised at the explanation, as he had never encountered such methods of holding a combat competition. The rules of the combat competitions were both simple and complicated at the same time. Each of the 10 schools registered a set number of students that would take part in the competitions. In this instance, there were 5 from each school. When the competition starts, one of the schools that were predetermined to start would send out a fighter for the competition. The school that sat to their right would then send out a fighter of their own. Whoever of the two won would stay on the stage and wait for the next school to send their students to participate. The participants would go up in a counterclockwise rotation and the competition would go on until there was but just a single person remaining. Points were handed in the order of when you lost. If you were the first one to lose, you got 1 point, and if you were the last one to stand, you got more than 45 points, depending on how many of your team had lost. 5 additional points were given to the winning team for each participant that still didn't lose by the end of the competition. There were additional rules as well. Since a person would have to fight one opponent after another, after 5 continuous victories, the person was allowed to swap with another member of his own team. If he lasted until it was time for his own team to send someone, then they could leave the stage without having to send anyone up. The next 2 schools in the rotation would then have to fight. The competition was not one that required just combat prowess and luck. It also required magnificent management skills on the part of the school. The people that were in charge of choosing who went when had to make decisions based on not just the present but also the future. Should they send their worst student first and hope they did well, but risk getting a very low point? Or should they send their best student first and hope they didn't immediately fail, and maybe have them go on for 5 more rounds? Or should they just pick a middle-of-the-pack student and risk less but also not get as many points? The decision had to be made by the people in charge every time it was their team's turn to choose. Ning saw the order in which they were sitting. Blackhawk was in between Light Dance to the left and Crimson Wings to the right. Essence Heart was to the left of Light Dance, so it wouldn't be long before the two would have to fight. The first person that would start was already determined based on a draw before anyone even walked out. The Grand Wool Academy sent out a male fighter to the stage, and the Frolane Academy to their right followed it up by sending a girl to the stage. The stage was very wide and the barrier around the stage was already set up. With multiple referees inside, all was ready for these two to fight. The boy had 2 swords, one that was a fire conduit and another that was an earth conduit. He himself was a water essence user, giving him 3 different types of attacks to do. The girl seemed to be a wind essence user while she used an explosion spear to fight. The battle began and immediately the two of them started fighting. The girl used some sort of wind technique to create a chaotic storm in the arena. Any fire attack the young boy used was swept up by the storm, completely misdirecting his attack. Even water attacks couldn't do anything to the young girl in the storm. The young boy's only choice in this situation was to use his earth sword to attack. His sword had been made using a massive boulder that was near his hometown. The converter that had worked on it had needed 5 whole hours to turn the rock into essence. With his powers, he could create the entirety of the massive boulder, which he tried to do. The girl saw the opportunity and dashed forward. The chaotic winds suddenly stopped, and instead, she used a wind movement skill that helped her forward. With her physical strength being quite strong, she closed the gap between the two in the blink of an eye. The amount of essence the young boy had to put into his sword to create the boulder was not something he could do so quickly. So, when the girl arrived in front of him, he was unable to do anything but take the spear stab to the chest. The girl's spear stopped just a few inches away from the young man's heart as a giant fiery arm had appeared out of nowhere and grabbed onto the spear. The crowd went silent for a moment and then immediately cheered as the young girl had won the fight easily. Looks like Frolane wants to start with a bang. Caleb, who was next to him, spoke. That girl didn't even use many skills. She simply forced the young man into a losing position and used his desperation to have him make a mistake. Not bad, one of the teachers said. Everyone went around praising the young girl for what she had just done, but no one seemed to be surprised at the giant fiery arm that had just appeared. Ning sighed. So everyone here but me has seen that before, huh? He thought. He wondered if he had seen that before too, in some other world. He couldn't be sure as everything about Essence was kept hidden by the system. Well, at least I got to see the Essence Soul for the first time, he thought to himself. I wonder what my Essence Souls would look like when I break through to the Essence Soul realm as well. The next contestant from the Ash Wind Academy was sent to the stage, and the battle fight began. The competition went on for a while, with many getting knocked out early while some remained for 2 to 3 rounds before losing as well. Not a single person had managed to remain all 5 turns just yet, not to mention survive an entire rotation. Most were either tired after a few fights, or their skills were understood by the person assessing the battles and knew exactly who to send up to win against them. This went on for the entire day before the matches abruptly ended at the end of the day. The competition was halted for the day with 30 of the 49 potential matches over. The rest of the matches would take place on the 7th day, which included 10 as well since he hadn't fought yet. The next day, the competition continued from where it had ended with 2 new fighters joining the stage. The battles continued for about half a day before it was Ten's turn to fight. He was the strongest person from the Black Hawk Academy according to the teachers and was thus kept until the end so he could last the longest and bring them as many points as he could. They didn't expect much from him but hoped that he at least got them enough points so they could maintain their current lead in terms of points. The last fighter from Essence Heart Academy was on stage. He had defeated someone from Blue Spark Academy as well as the Light Dance Academy. The Black Hawk Academy would be his third battle. Ten walked up the arena as quickly as he could to not give the person any time to rest. The faster it could all start, the less time he would have to catch his breath. Ten had watched the person's fighting style and was thus quite aware of how he fought. He had a fire sword, light armor, and also had a water core. Ten arrived on the stage and pulled out a fire sword from his sheath. He prepared himself and the battle started. Immediately, the man used his light sword to send out a blinding light that made it impossible to see anything for Ten. However, Ten was ready for it and immediately slashed his sword. A wave of fire flew in the direction of the light, which the other person easily ignored. A burst of water poured onto Ten, who couldn't see. Thankfully, he had trained enough so that he could fight without seeing. Just sensing where the essence was let him know what he was dealing with and could thus dodge in time. He twisted his body and a wind slash flew toward the man from the side. Wind core. The young man thought and used a water attack to block the wind attack. The two of them continued fighting for a while, and after each attack, the two of them figured out each other's attacks. Neither of them seemed to get the upper hand at all. Then, the young man tried to use one of his better skills. He created a massive flood on stage which could wash away everything, including Ten. The young man had used this attack knowing full well that neither wind nor fire could ever stop this. However, to his surprise, Ten used neither. He dropped to his knees and placed his palm on the stage. Suddenly, a rocky pillar appeared from beneath him at an angle, launching him into the air, in the direction of the young man. As he flew through the air, a layer of stone armor appeared around him, increasing the speed of his descent with every passing moment. The young man realized what was happening and tried to use another attack, however, it was too late. Ten dropped on top of the man and punched him in the chest. Before his attack could land, however, a fiery pillar appeared around the young man, protecting him from the attack. Ten was surprised that the young man actually managed to save himself, but when he saw one of the people walk onto the stage, he realized that the young man had in fact been saved. Oh, he thought. He had won. The crowd cheered as the result was announced and the stunned young man was sent away from the stage. The Essence Heart Academy had finished 4 spots away from the last person, so the young man that had just left got himself 46 points. Ten was now set for 47 points, or higher if he could defeat the next 3 opponents. Ning watched Ten fight another person and win, before losing to the next person. That person then went on to win against the next person, and the under-16 combat competition was over. The Black Hawk Academy cheered after the entirety of the points were revealed after the competition. Their students had brought them quite a number of points. Now, the Black Hawk Academy was in the lead with 50 points on the second in the ranks, the Essence Heart Academy. The headmaster gave a hearty laugh, showing his happy expression for everyone to see, especially the headmaster from the Essence Heart Academy. Everyone congratulated Ten and the rest after they returned to the group. "Congrats, brother Ten. You did quite amazing back there," Ning said. "Haha, it was nothing," Ten said in a humble tone. Everyone talked for a bit and the headmaster told them to do well on the next day. The actual combat competitions would have much better fighters with stronger skills, and they would actually be held as a tournament with brackets. So, the chance of the points fluctuating was still quite high. Fortunately, Ning and 19 others didn't have to care about it. It was only important for the other 10 that were actually participating. Ning nudged 10 a little and said, "So we're ready to go, right?" "Oh shit, I nearly forgot," 10 said. "Are you sure you want to go?" "Of course," Ning said. "All right, let me bring it up to the teacher when we're leaving," 10 said. "We should be allowed to leave. They are running away with the points. What the hell are you guys doing?" A lean man with a bald head spoke in anger. His furious face was being looked at by none of the 40 or so students or even the teachers that had come along with him. "Black Hawk Academy keeps winning over you again and again. Is that why I brought you all here? To lose?" the man asked. "But headmaster," one of the boys spoke. "We're still in second place. That's still quite second. You think I trained you so much, put so much effort into you, also you can get second place?" The man shouted at them again. "Do you know what being second means? It means you lost to someone? Lost? Are you okay with losing?" "No, headmaster," the group shouted. "Leave," the man shouted, sending the students away. He heaved in silence for a few seconds while the teachers waited for his anger to calm down a bit. "Headmaster, don't worry, I'm sure our students will do great tomorrow. We will definitely take the first spot in this final competition," one of the teachers said. "I know we will," the headmaster said with a sneer on his face, but not without a little bit of help. He looked at one of the female teachers with a small build, who didn't expect him to be looking at her so keenly. "Teacher Sheena, your light essence is as good as ever, is it not?" he asked. "They are, good," the female teacher said. "Good, then I have a job for you." "Yes, teacher. I haven't been to my family in so many months. They want to meet me," Ten said with as much homesickness he could show on his face. "But, didn't you go back home just a few days ago? I thought you did," one of the teachers asked. "Huh? No, I never went home," Ten quickly said. I couldn't go back because I had woken up too late at night. The guards didn't let me enter." "The guards didn't let you enter? But you are the son of the foremans. Why would the guard?" "Teacher, please. I want to go home. My competition has already ended. Please agree to this request of mine. Just for one night, I will be back early morning tomorrow. I promise," Ten said. "I mean, you don't have to be back. You can stay with your family for the remaining days if you want to," the teacher said. "No, I will be back tomorrow," Ten said quickly. "Thank you for letting me go, teacher." "Sure. Be care. I will be bringing brother Ning with me if you don't mind. His competitions are over, so I will be taking him back too," Ten said and pulled away Ning before the teacher could talk. Caleb looked surprised. "Actually, teacher, one of my aunts is married to the Elia family in the city. I haven't seen her in quite a while. May I go visit her as well?" he asked. "I no longer have any competitions to take part in." The teacher sighed. "Fine, go. Don't ask me any more," he said. "Great," the prince said from the side. "I will be leaving as well then." "Prince," the teacher shouted, "you can't go. You have a match tomorrow." "Don't worry, I won't drink or do anything that will cause me problems tomorrow," the prince said and continued walking away. "But you, don't worry, Teacher Hyan. I will look after him," the princess spoke and followed her twin brother. "Why are you coming with me?" the prince asked. "Why? What's wrong with me coming with you?" the princess asked. "I'm going out with some girls," the prince said. "You can't be there. You'll ruin things." "Don't worry, I won't stop you from talking with them," the princess said. "If you feel so bad about it, then let me invite a few of my male friends as well. We can all have dinner together." "Damn it, Fine. Follow me, but don't you dare get in my way, the prince said and walked away with the princess following him. Two students immediately left the rank, following the prince and princess. Not only them, a few more people in the arena quickly followed them as they were there to look after the prince and princess. The teacher sighed seeing so many people leave one after another. He turned around and looked at the remaining students. You guys don't want to leave as well, right? The teacher asked. You guys aren't eager to just leave for the city, right? The students gave a rueful smile and quickly shook their heads. However, amongst them, a hand rose and a young lady walked out. Actually, I have relatives in the city as well. Would you mind if I left as well? She asked. Why, Yorsha? You want to leave as well? The teacher asked with a hesitating voice. You just said we could leave, right? She asked. So I want to leave too. But those guys left, she said. Can I not? Is this discrimination, teacher? No, you can go if you want, the teacher quickly said. But don't you have a match tomorrow? You are our youngest contestant to join tomorrow's competition. Don't worry, teacher. I will arrive on time, she said and walked away without saying anything else. The teacher sighed in the end, watching 7 of his students leave. He couldn't even stop them as the first ones had already left. You lot, you definitely aren't leaving, are you? The teacher asked. The group quickly shook their head. Good, let's go back. Tomorrow is a big day and you lot need to get ready for it. The Blackhawk Academy members left the arena a while later, all of whom walked back toward the Light Dance Academy where they were staying at. Unbeknownst to them, someone else was on their way to Light Dance Academy as well, and their purpose had to do with the very Blackhawk Academy students that were going there. Hey, wait. Let me come with you guys, Caleb shouted from far away and ran toward Ning and Ten, quickly leaving the arena. They stopped and turned around. You want to come with us? Ning asked. Yeah, why? Are you going to refuse? Caleb asked. No, I'm not, Ning said, but I thought you didn't meddle with people that were weak. Hey, you can't call yourself weak now. I only called you that because you were just a 5-cents improvement realm essence user back then, Caleb said while dismissing the claims. Now that you are in the essence manifestation realm, you are more than allowed to be my friend. Ning wasn't sure how to respond to that. All right then, let's go together, he said. Actually no, Ten said. I heard you say something about your aunt being in the city. If you're going to meet her, you can't come with us. Huh? Why not? Caleb asked. We're actually going to the city a little later, so you will be late, Ten said. You should go on ahead without us. Ning frowned a bit. Is he trying to get rid of him? He wondered. Oh, Caleb spoke and looked around to see if anyone was there. Actually, I don't have any aunt. I was just tired of staying with the group and wanted to go visit the city. So I'm fine if we're going to be late. Really? Ten looked surprised. Then awesome, you can come with us. With that, Caleb joined them as well. Ning was a little confused as to what had just happened. He walked by Ten and asked, Did you not say we're going to the city later because you wanted not to let him join the team? Huh? No, I was telling the truth, Ten said. We're only going to go to the city something around evening, right after the sun goes down but before the security gets too tight. Huh? Why? Ning asked. If we go too early, people will recognize me and soon enough, somehow, the news will get to my parents. At that point, I will most likely die, Ten said. So we have to delay it for as long as we can. Ning was curious about what it was all about. Why would he die just because they saw him in there? Okay. So what do we do now? Caleb asked. Let's just go grab some food or something. There are many towns and villages outside the main city walls too, Ten said and started walking away. The road that led to White Owl City was paved with flat stones and was very comfortable to walk on. It wasn't uneven like a dirt road would be and neither did it kick up a lot of dust. People walked past them because of how slow they were and at some point, they even saw the prince and princess going past them on a carriage. Not far behind them, another carriage took away Yorsha, the girl Ning remembered as talented with fire. They found their way to a small shop that sold hot snacks, so the group sat around talking and eating. Caleb was curious about the city and asked many questions to Ten. Ten answered all the questions and started explaining his life in the city. While a son of the foreman, neither of his parents had much influence in the family, so he wasn't born with much influence either. His father was just a cousin to the current head and was thus already considered not to be a part of the main family. His mother came from a reputable family in the White Owl region as well, but she could never compare to any of the foremans at all. Of course, being a foreman still made them one of the most influential people in the city itself, and that was enough to make Ten quite famous throughout the entire city. There were no important figures in the city that would at least not have heard about him. Apparently, his influence had gotten bigger after he had been accepted by the Blackhawk Academy as well. When I went back a week ago, it took me half an hour to get back to the house because people kept stopping to say hello, Ten said while sighing incessantly. They sat around for a while before the sun started going past the horizon. All right, let's go before it's too late, Ten said, and the group left. Sometimes in between, Ten changed his clothes to something darker with a hood to hide. In the evening, it was impossible to tell who it was that was walking. The group appeared outside White Owl City and the guards checked who was going into the city. Ten hid his face for most of it, but at one point he had to show it just to make sure he wasn't a known criminal. The three of them were let in without any more words, and Ten sighed in relief once he got inside. Good, it looks like he didn't recognize me, he said before putting up his hood. All right, let's go, Ten said. Right, where exactly are we going? Caleb asked. He had just followed the two of them and hadn't really bothered with where they were going. Brother Ning here wants some information on the nobles of the White Owl region, so I'm taking him to the best place to get the information, Ten said. Oh, an information broker? Caleb asked. Not exactly, Ten said and continued walking. Ning and Caleb curiously followed behind Ten as he took them through the inner alleyways and minor roads of the city until he arrived in an area that did not look like one that he was supposed to come to. Ning realized where they were. Are you kidding me? Even Caleb was a little surprised and scared. I told you, didn't I? Ten asked. That my parents would kill me if they found out. No wonder, Ning thought. So, the best place to get the information I want is actually the red light district? What are we doing here? Caleb couldn't help but hesitate quite a lot seeing the location he was in. This can't be what you meant when you said you knew a place, right? Ning asked. He too felt slightly awkward being in such a place. I can't help it, Ten said. This is the best place for what you need. Many big-named figures come around to relax here and have fun, and in doing so end up talking a lot more than normal. If you want to learn about something, this is definitely the best place. Ning couldn't deny that what Ten said sounded plausible, but was there no better place than a brothel house? Okay, we're not exactly going to a brothel house, unless you want to, which I can't stop, Ten said. Not all the places here are for what you think they're here for. Some of them are just here just so you can have some female companionship while you drink and relax. There are some places where they provide males as well. Ning sighed. Fine, let's go get the information then. Let's see what it is all about, he said. Ten moved on ahead with Ning and Caleb following behind. Caleb had his hand over his face, trying to hide, but his fingers were wide open and he was looking right through them. Ten tried his best to hide his face under his hood, especially when someone not from this place passed by him. The last thing he wanted to do here was get found out by someone that recognized him. Brother Ten, if you are wary of being found out, you should leave, Ning said. Now that I'm here, I can find my own way around. No, Ten said. These people are very wary of strangers and won't answer any of your questions unless they are comfortable after knowing who you are. As such, I will have to show my face. Aren't you worried though? Caleb asked. What if they tell your family? That I won't have to worry about, Ten said. The last thing any of these women will want to do is reveal who their clients are. The moment such an incident is publicized, they will get no more clients at all. I see, Caleb thought. That makes sense. The red light district was red at all. In fact, the buildings shined with lights of every color. The iridescent lights fell onto the road, mixing together, lighting the area in bright white light. Not a single sound escaped the buildings despite the fact that there should have been a lot of sounds all over the place. As it was evening, people were just getting done with their work and many people were visiting here. Despite that, the lack of sound told Ning that this place wasn't just a normal red light district. This was definitely a place that was big enough to place sound restricting barriers in every single building, and possibly every single room. There were women wearing revealing clothes that hung around the windows of the buildings, luring in the men that came for exactly that. These women worked as better advertisements than any name the place could ever get. 10 stopped outside a building that did have a name, the Sweet Dreams Entertainment House. Unlike the other houses, this one didn't provide any sexual entertainment, but simply companionship. This is the one, he said and entered. Ning and Caleb followed behind him and entered as well. A woman in a bright red dress and a rather revealing outfit arrived to welcome them. 10 removed his hood and the woman's eyes widened slightly. Young Master 10, welcome back, the woman smiled softly. Ning and Caleb looked at the man. Welcome back? You've been here before? Ning asked with a questioning look. It's not like that, 10 said quickly. One of my elder cousins dragged me here a week before I left for the academy to celebrate my acceptance. That's how I knew where to go exactly. I mean, I'm not judging or anything, Caleb said. 10 looked at the woman and spoke. Miss Jenna. Miss Jenna, we aren't here for what you think, he said. My friend here is looking for information, and my cousin had mentioned that there is no better place in the city than this for gathering information. Can we acquire some? The woman shook her head. Young Master 10, you should be more tactful with your requests. You should know we can't just hand over information. We're an entertainment house, not an information house, she said. Then, 10 was stumped. Then what we can do is entertain you, the woman said, and if by some chance our girls are happy enough to give you some information, then that's that. 10 realized what was happening. Then I would like to use your services. The woman, with her unending smile, asked, would you like different rooms or the same one? Let's do with different, Ning said quickly, at least for me. Caleb had no problem with either, so he let 10 make the decision for him. 10 shrugged. 2 rooms please, he said, please come with me. The woman took the 3 of them to 2 rooms that were side by side. As soon as Ning entered his room, he suddenly couldn't hear anything outside at all. There was a woman in the room already, who by the looks of it was in her early 20s. She had a string instrument in her hand that she started playing as soon as Ning entered. Hello, sir. How are you doing on this lovely evening? The woman asked as Ning entered. Ning looked around at the room once before answering, I'm doing all right. Please, come sit and enjoy this song of mine, the woman said and started singing a slow, melodic song that seemed to lull Ning into getting rid of all of his worries. He sighed and sat down, wondering how early it would be before he got to leave the place. Ning looked at the piece of paper in front of him. On it was written the prices of food and drinks, as well as the price of calling additional girls to the room if they wished for it. The girl to his side continued playing the stringed instrument, filling the room with a vibe that Ning hadn't felt in a very long time. I don't believe I have seen you here before, sir. Is this your first time? The girl asked. First, and most likely last, Ning said. Oh, that's not fun, the girl said with a worried tone to her voice. Is something troubling you? Ning sighed. Okay, listen. I'm not here for any of this. I know what you're trying to do and I can tell you there's no need for it, he said. I came here looking for information that I've been told I can get here. Can you help me? The girl's rhythm fell off for a second before she got back into it with the next set of plucks of her instrument. This is an entertainment house, sir. I am here to entertain you. Would you like for me to dance for you? If you're hungry you can order some food too. Ning looked at the girl for a moment and thought of something for a few seconds. Can the people outside this room hear us? He asked. No, every sound is cut off from the outside. No one can hear us at all, the girl said. Then how do you call for them? Is there any mechanism in the barrier around us that can help you notify others? He asked. No, we simply have people around the building keeping an eye on our essence. If we need to call for someone, we simply have to use it, the girl said. And you are certain that aside from the aura, they can't see anything else? They can't hear anything else? He asked. I'm certain, the girl said. Prove it, Ning ordered. The girl hesitated a bit. How would you like me to prove it, sir? She asked. Ning thought for a moment and asked, the girl outside, Jenna. She must be your superior, right? Tell me something bad about her. I'm sorry. I can't say something like that, the girl said. Fine, if you won't say anything then I will leave, Ning said and stood up to leave. Sir, wait, the girl stopped playing the instrument. Please, you don't have to leave just like that. Aren't you here to get some entertainment? No, I'm here to get some information, which you either don't have or don't want to give me, Ning said. Are you really not here for anything else? She asked. She couldn't believe someone was coming here to get some information. They definitely had information, but was it really something that could help him? No, just the information, Ning said. The girl hesitated for a bit and spoke. All right, I can do that, but you will have to buy something expensive. Since I'm giving away information, I might as well make you pay for it. I'm fine with that, but can I trust that you will have the information, or that you even have it in the first place? Ning asked. I don't know what you're looking for, so I can't tell you whether I have the information or not, but I will definitely give it to you if I have, she said. Okay. And I don't want anyone else hearing this. Is no one outside listening to us? He asked. No, there isn't, the girl sighed. Prove it, Ning said. I hate Jenna for always bringing me the guests with less status and sending the guests with higher status to the room over. Is that bad-mouthing enough proof? She asked. Ning smiled and went back to sit beside her. He looked at the menu and ordered an expensive set of snacks and drinks. He felt the girl flare her essence and very quickly a person walked in to take the order. Can you start now? He asked. The girl took her instrument and started playing it. What do you want to know about? She asked. Who is the one in control of the White Owl region? He asked. The girl's eyes narrowed for a second. Anyone can tell you that. It's the Foreman family, she said. But they are not officially recognized, are they? Ning asked. Why is that so? Why have they not officially moved on to become the ruler of this region? They can't, the girl said. The Ilya family and the Goran family are becoming a hindrance to them. The Ilya and Goran family? Are they big families? Ning asked. Not very, the girl said. They are nothing compared to the Foreman, but they hold just enough power to make a say in things if they stick together. The two families must have realized that they would be in trouble if the Foreman officially took the reign, huh? Ning asked. It's not that, the girl said. It's more so that they don't want Foreman to win because they believe that the Foreman manipulated events to get here today. Manipulated events? Ning frowned for a moment before his eyes narrowed. You mean, the Grazer family? Did the Foreman cause the fire that killed all of the Grazers? No one knows and it is all speculation at the moment, the girl said. However, the other two families are using this coincidence as a way to not let Foreman become the ruler of this region. From what I've heard from my rambling clients, there is an agreement going on between the Foreman and the other two families, the girl said. They're to wait 30 years before taking the throne just in case someone from the Grazer family had survived and wanted to take it all back. Ning frowned. Is that it? Is that why they haven't taken the throne? Because of an agreement? He asked. That's about it, the girl said. But from what I've heard, the situation might play out differently from anyone imagined. What makes you say that? Ning asked. That's because. Just before the girl could answer, the door opened and another girl came in with the food. Ning did his best to fake a smile, but the burning curiosity in his heart was making it quite difficult to do so. Because what? He wondered. He watched the other girl place down the food and drinks and walk away. As soon as she closed the door, he turned around to the girl for his answer. Because of what? He asked urgently. Because, there is a rumor going around that someone from the Grazer family actually managed to survive the fire, a son, she said. A son? Ning asked. They say he's been hiding in the north all this time. With just about 4 years left before the deadline of the agreement, the Foreman must be trying their best to get rid of him. That's what the people from the other two families believe at least, she said. A male being hunted in the north. Ning couldn't believe what he was hearing. There was a person in his mind that perfectly fit the description. Clara. Ning finally thought he understood what was happening. He understood the reason why Clara was being targeted so much and why everyone that did so believed that she was the man that had escaped this place. They must not be aware that she is a woman then, he thought. I will have to get this information back as soon as I can. Sorry. The girl next to him spoke. My name is not Clara. It's Bella. It's written right here. Oh right. Sorry, Ning quickly said. He quickly pushed the snacks toward her. Please have some. He picked some food himself and started eating them. The drinks that he had randomly ordered had turned out to be alcoholic, so he only drank a little bit. The drink was more juice than booze, but even then it was enough to get him tipsy, so he didn't go for much. The girl seemed to be able to stomach alcohol a lot better than Ning, so she drank without stopping. She started asking Ning who he was and where he was from as well as what he did. Ning had no reason to hide anything, so he answered everything. He asked the girl questions as well, and she answered what she knew too. It turned out that the girl had actually been sold to her parents when she was just 11 years old to a noble from a city over. They had a bad year of crops, so they couldn't pay back the noble and had to instead sell their daughter. The noble had then sold her to a brothel, but because she was so young back then, the brothel owner only made her work as a servant of the brothel house. As she grew, she was taught what most courtesans were taught to prepare herself. However, when she was given a chance to transition to becoming a courtesan, she instead chose to leave the brothel house. She had earned enough money by then to buy herself her own freedom. She went back to find her parents, but her parents had already fled to the village after not being able to pay the noble for another year. After that, she had come to this city, but without much knowledge or skills, she couldn't find work in many places. As a result, she had to find another brothel to find work. However, to her luck, she had instead found an entertainment house where she did not have to become a courtesan and could instead just be a normal entertainer. She believed that she had used up all of her luck on that day. Since then, she had been working under Jenna and entertaining guests. In half a dozen years, she had become one of the best in the house, but she still had ways to go before she was the best. She believed that she could do it, and she had been trying her best ever since to achieve it. Ning was impressed by her drive and determination. Even if what she wanted to achieve wasn't something respectable in most people's eyes, he still had to commend the girl on how hard she was working to get what she wanted. "I'm sure you can do it," he told her. "Just keep trying your best." "Thank you, sir," the woman said. "I'm sure your school will end up winning the tournament that you came here for." "Let's hope so," he said and continued eating. As he ate, he sensed something peculiar from outside the room. Multiple people with different essences had gathered outside the room and seemed to be doing something. Ning frowned and stood up. "Something is happening outside, I'll go check," he said and walked out. The moment he came out of the door, he saw Jenna standing in the corner holding onto a few girls that seemed terrified at the moment. Ning then turned to see Caleb with an awkward face, not knowing what to do. In front of him stood a tall, long black-haired, thick-bearded man that wore robes with gold engravings all over them. He had his hands crossed together and had a rather angry look on his face as he stared at the ground below him. It was only then that Ning realized that next to the man's feet was a crouching Ten who seemed to be kneeling as low as he could. "What's going on?" he wondered. The girls didn't seem scared, so much as they didn't want to get involved with whatever was happening. "Please forgive me, Uncle," Ten said. "I had no other intention in coming here." The man stared without speaking and simply gave a small scoff to imply that he didn't believe him. "Uncle?" Ning thought. "One of the foremans? Believe me, Uncle. I came directly to this place because my friend wanted to come here. I wouldn't have come here otherwise," Ten said. "Please don't tell my parents. Someone tells me my nephew is in the city, and when I search for him, I find him in this place. You came here directly without going home. You still want me to believe that you didn't want to come here?" the man asked. "No, I'm telling the truth," Ten said. "He's not lying," Ning spoke up. He walked next to Ten and stood by him. "He didn't want to come here. He's only here because I needed to come here." Who are you?" the man asked. "My apologies. My name is Ning. I am your nephew's friend in the academy," Ning quickly introduced himself. "And are you trying to take the blame for him because you think I won't punish you on his behalf?" the man asked. "I don't know, Senior. I've never met you, so I can't tell what you might or might not do," Ning said. "All I'm doing is telling you the truth that your nephew isn't here for any other reason than bringing me here. That's why I was in a separate room from these two." The man stared at Ning for what felt like an entire minute and sighed. He looked down toward Ten and nudged him with his leg. "Get up," he said. "I won't scold you, but you're not off the hook just yet." Ten finally stopped kneeling and stood up. His face was red with embarrassment and nervousness, and aside from that, there wasn't anything wrong with him. He still didn't look his uncle in the eye and shifted uncomfortably where he stood. The middle-aged man sighed and turned around. "I'll be waiting outside. Pay up and leave immediately," he said and walked away. Ten remained standing still for a few seconds afterward before grumbling in the complaint. He felt wronged as he hadn't come here for what his uncle thought he was here for, but he knew he was never going to be able to explain that. Even Ning's explanation wasn't going to help him at all. "I'm sorry you guys had to witness that," he said and walked toward Jenna to pay the price of their service today. The 2 rooms in total cost the young man around 80 fire essence coins, which he pulled out from the storage artifact he was wearing. "Let's go," he said, and the 3 of them walked outside. Ten's uncle turned around and watched them come up to him. Then, he looked around at where he was and said, "Let's leave this place for now." He started walking away and the 3 of them followed him. As soon as they walked out of the red lights district, Ten walked up to his uncle and started speaking up for his innocence. It was a losing battle for him, but thankfully he got his uncle to promise not to say anything to his parents or other people. The uncle turned around toward Caleb and Ning and looked at them carefully. "You 2 are participants too, aren't you?" he asked. "I think I saw you 2 before." "Yes, we are," Ning said. "All of us are participants in the competition." "And your school allowed you 2 to venture into a big city on your own? Do they not have any supervision?" the man asked. "Our competitions are over," Ten quickly said. Isn't there a few more days remaining?" the uncle asked. "No, our competitions are over. What's remaining is for the seniors," Ten said. Isn't he a senior?" the uncle asked while pointing at Ning. "He looks old." "Huh? No, he is first year like us," Caleb explained. "He just joined late." "I see," the uncle said. "And you were the one that wanted to come here, huh? Why did you have to bring along someone so many years younger than you?" "I didn't tell him to bring me here," Ning said. "I just wanted to come to the city to find a place that can help me get some information." The uncle paused for a second and turned to Ten. "Is he telling the truth?" he asked. "Yes," Ten said. "And you chose that place? When there is a literal information agency on the other side of the city," the uncle said. "I know, but cousin Naylan brought me there once before and told me that was the best place for finding high-level information since old men tend to freely speak with those girls when they're drunk," Ten said. The uncle simply looked dumbfounded at the answer. He thought for a moment and said, "Don't follow in your cousin's footsteps. He isn't a good role model," uncle said. The atmosphere got a little better as the uncle seemed to soften up toward his nephew and even pat his back a few times. Ning and Caleb stopped worrying about their uncle and started enjoying the nightlife of the city. The brilliant artifacts created from converting light into light essence hung at every wall of every building in the city, illuminating the ground as if it mattered not that the sun had set already. The entire city was still illuminated as if it was daytime. Even the places that were supposed to be dark alleyways were bright enough to see everything inside easily. Part of it was due to how well everyone's sight was due to their essence rank, but part of it was genuinely due to how many light essence artifacts were around. After walking through the busy streets for a while, the group arrived upon a large gate on either side of which were tall walls that went on for hundreds of meters. It was as if they had somehow arrived in a different city while inside the city. The gates were wide open, but the guards were inspecting every single person that came in and out of the gates. Ten's uncle pulled out something from his pockets and showed it to the guards before walking in. Ten didn't need to show anything at all. "These are my friends," he explained to the guards. The guards nodded and pulled Ning and Caleb to the side. "Are you carrying any weapons?" they asked. Ning pointed to the sword on his hips while Caleb simply nodded. "Please hand over all your weapons," the guards said. Ning looked at Ten, who nodded. Ning shrugged and pulled out his sword, along with the sheath. "Where do I place it?" he asked. "I will be taking it," the guard said. Ning smiled a bit and shook his head. "It's too heavy for you," he said. "Tell me where I will have to place it and I will." The guard frowned a bit and even the other guard got alert. Ning saw that and sighed. "Fine, take it." He let the guard take the sword by the hilt. The moment the guard even grabbed the sword, its massive weight made the man fall to the ground of his own volition. Ning grabbed the sword before the man was hurt and took it. "As I said, it is very heavy. Tell me where to place it," he said once more. Everyone present was surprised to see something like that happen in front of them. The guard wiped his brows and pointed to the room behind the gate. Ning walked over and saw a pile of weapons and armor that were kept there on wooden shelves. He placed his sword on one of the shelves and took the token that was in its place. After that, he walked back to the gate and looked around. "Aren't you going to take his weapons too?" He pointed to Caleb. The group finally came to their senses again and the guards started working. The guard once again looked at Ning and asked, "Do you not have any other weapons?" "Nope, none," Ning said. "May I check your storage artifacts?" the guard asked. "Hey, aren't you being too much? None of the other guests have to do so much," Ten said. "I'm sorry, young master, but I have to check for the weapons," the guard said. Ten felt anger flare inside him, but he couldn't do anything. Despite having increased popularity, his influence in the family still hadn't grown by a whole lot. If it were Nalan's friends, the two of them would have left ages ago. Instead, because they were his friends, they were being thoroughly checked as per the family rule. Ning looked at the guard and shook his head. "I have no storage artifact. May I go in now or do you want me to waste all of the essence in my body next?" "I'm sorry about the guards. They're more lenient to other people's guests in the family, but I guess I haven't reached that level just yet," Ten said while apologizing to the two. "It's fine. My family's guards aren't so different either. Although I do have a bit more authority than you, I suppose," Caleb said. "I'm truly sorry," Ten continued apologizing. "If your uncle had vouched for us, wouldn't that have worked?" Ning asked. "Or does he have even less influence than you?" "Huh? My uncle has no influence in the family," Ten said. "Why would he?" Ning was taken back for a second. "Wait, is he not a part of the family?" he asked. "What? Oh, no, he is my uncle on my mother's side. My father's side only has aunts and they're already married," Ten explained. "Ah, I see," Ning finally realized. Was that why he had to use that token to get in? "Yes," Ten said. "He has free entry in and out of the family, but nothing more than that." "I see," Ning said. Ten's uncle had already moved on ahead and was acting as if he wasn't hearing any of their conversation. Ning and the rest continued walking as well and only then realized how big this place was. Calling this place a separate city for the elites wouldn't be an exaggeration at all. There were roads inside with multiple buildings that had restaurants and general stores and whatnot on either side. There were normal mansions inside the family ground that had their own walls around it. Ning was truly stunned to see it all as he had never seen something like this at all. "That's my house." Ten pointed to a 3-story tall mansion that was lit IWTH light from the inside and outside, and had people at the gate guarding it. The mansion was fully white in color, either by choice, or because they were forced to have white walls due to the name of the region. Now that Ning was noticing it, he was realizing that most of the buildings inside had completely white walls. The guards bowed and the gates opened. The group of 4 entered the mansion, and Ning immediately started looking around at the designs of the building inside. This was his first time seeing an extravagant mansion in this world. The only other one that could count was the Paradise Hunter's hideout back in Greyfire City, and that was the house of a very small noble. Compared to that, this place was no different than a palace. "You seem surprised," Caleb said. "Is your house not like this?" "Like this?" Ning chuckled. "Compared to this, my house is very simple." "Oh," Caleb gave a surprised look. "Right, you're from a small noble family, aren't you?" Ning couldn't help but chuckle at the remark. He had been talking about his own house back on Earth that, while amazing, couldn't compare to this place. Although that house was built to look simple, so maybe it didn't count. "By the way, are you two hungry?" Ten asked. "I'll ask the servants to prepare something for you." "No, that's all right," Ning said. "I already ate too much on the way to the city and then back there." "Yeah, I'm full too," Caleb said. "I'm sad I didn't get to go around much in the end. That was what I came here for in the first place." "I'm sorry about that," Ning said. "That was my fault." "I will have the servants prepare a room for you," Ten said. "Let's relax a bit for now." The uncle had already walked away somewhere, leaving the 3 behind. Ten brought the 2 to the living room, only to find his uncle and his parents waiting for him. The room was lit with warm yellow light, with 3 people sitting on fancy couches. Ten's uncle sat to the side, sipping a cup of something. The middle-aged couple that were Ten's parents were sitting in the middle. The woman was knitting some clothes while the man was reading a book. The middle-aged woman had pitch black hair tied in a bun and wearing floral pink gown that seemed to be made through knitting as well. The woman looked up and saw the 3 walk in. Her eyes shined with excitement as she immediately stood up. "My son, come here," she excitedly spoke the moment Ten entered. She hugged him tightly without any warning, and squealed like a 13-year-old girl seeing her favorite celebrity. I saw your matches yesterday and today. You were so cool, she shouted. I heard you were out celebrating your team's victory with your friends. You should have stayed out longer. Ten side-eyed his uncle, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Yes, mother, Ten said before prying his mother's arms away. Sorry I was a little late. No, don't be sorry, his mother said. Are these your friends? Yes, Ten said. This is Caleb, and this is brother Ning. They are both in the same year as me. Oh, the woman walked up to the two and smiled. Thank you for being friends with my son. No, you don't need to thank us for that, Ning quickly said. Yeah, miss. Being friends with Ten is not a very big deal, Caleb said. Is that so? The woman said. Please, come sit. You guys must be tired after today. It was only Ten who fought. Our competitions ended a few days ago already, Caleb answered. The middle-aged man that sat in the center finally put down the book he had been reading and looked at his son. I saw your matches. They were quite good, he said. Ten smiled slightly. Thank you, father, he said. Continue at this rate and you'll achieve big, the man said and went back to reading his book. Ten smiled slightly and shrugged at his friends. Come on, you three. Sit, the woman said. I have so many things I want to ask you guys.